Right at the beginning, we see the villain, Daster Zhonglikyu, stopping his men from chasing after the fallen hero's friends. He thinks it's not even worthwhile to deal with them. The hero of this world, Kim Si-hyuk, rests defeated, and his nation falls at the hands of Zhonglikyu's evil methods. He grins, finally being able to exact the ritual to soar to the level of the gods. Celebrating his victory, he roars to the heavens, telling the gods that he has done their bidding. The sky splits open as an evil entity reveals its eye to the world. The madman, Zhonglikyu, wants this entity to make him a constellation of the world. After all, he kept his promise. So now he too wants to become a god, a creator. Zhonglikyu smiles when the mysterious constellation requests the creation of a new god, a new constellation for Earth. But after an analysis of Zhonglikyu, the system openly disqualifies the evil man as a candidate. This comes as a shock to the bastard's soul, as the system goes on to confirm that the original candidate, the hero Si-hyuk, has already been killed. Hence, the arena seeks no interest in searching for a new constellation. Zhonglikyu panics when he sees that the arena on his Earth is fully terminated, which also means the protection rights over this version of Earth have been terminated. The evil god mocks Zhonglikyu down for failing to meet the required qualifications to become a constellation. The man thinks he has been wronged. After all, the deity swore to him that he would be granted the heights of godhood as long as he killed Si-hyuk. The entity confirms keeping its promise. He wished for Zhonglikyu's ascension after all, the only issue being he ended up failing to meet the qualifications. Now that he serves no purpose to him, Zhonglikyu and his men are brought down by the deity, who finds torturing him a delightful experience. It promises to devour his world now, a world that no longer has any protectors. It's all thanks to the greed of one man who thought he could become powerful. Now let's go over to a different scene to meet our actual main character, Kim Si-moon. His friend has come to deliver him some news, but this alchemist is just busy tinkering away, calmly working on his own stuff while the world is falling to ruins. It's just his job to craft, even in the face of the inevitable. Suddenly, Si-moon's face turns to horror when he receives a mythical artifact from his friend. She tells him that things went down exactly like Si-moon predicted. The bastard Zhonglikyu ended up betraying Si-hyuk, Si-moon's brother, and yet the hero didn't even bother to use this artifact. She explains that Si-hyuk didn't find it necessary to use the artifact after his friends died, so he left it up to her. Si-moon accepts the situation as it is, while she tells him that they're even now. He's a little surprised to hear that she repaid him in a way for her previous debt. The thing is, her personal revenge was what led to Si-hyuk's demise, so she feels bad for it. But Si-moon doesn't really care about that or hold her guilty. He thinks her revenge was justified for what it was. The Continental Fortress is just a different matter. She's off to cause some chaos on her own again, especially after seeing Zhonglikyu summon an incredible monster. The system announcement was sent to everyone regarding the termination of the arena, especially after the qualified candidate was deemed deceased. Si-hyuk is gone, and only Si-moon knows about his secrets. In any case, she thinks the world has gone to shit, and that the alchemist should go on and search for a different location to hide. As for her, she's going to cause some trouble, even if it costs her life. She just wants him to keep the potion safe because Si-hyuk sacrificed his life for it. Si-moon sees her off and pops open the status window. He's not really anything special, just a pitiful and gloomy guy with basic beginner stats. Nothing feels worthwhile to him anymore. He needed a catalyst for crafting, and now he's got his hands on one of the best potions that he made. He pops open the bottle, thanking his brother and friend, before spilling the potion on the remains of the emerald tablet. The ritual reacts strongly to the energy source, and to get what he wants, he requires an equivalent trade-off. The ritual kicks in, enacting a powerful incantation circle that devours him in light. The aftermath of the ritual results in the shattered emerald tablet. As a consequence, he's just crafted his first mythical artifact and gained 5,000 points on top of that. Si-moon has earned his first title as well, but his center of attention is the Philosopher's Stone, the mythical artifact of alchemy that is bound to him. He spills some of his blood for the stone's activation, causing it to glow a strong red, before reacting in a way that he didn't expect. The stone attempts to devour our main character, and right as that happens, he sees Malsuk's head popping next to him on the ground. The confident girl who went out, thinking she could make a difference, now returns with only her head. The demonic entity is intrigued to find the Philosopher's Stone in Si-moon's hands. The very presence of this entity is potent enough that Si-moon can't stand it. The Philosopher's Stone is now living proof that this world has the potential to birth a new constellation. Of course, Si-moon doesn't know that yet, and reflects that it's only possible thanks to the sacrifices his loved ones made. Unfortunately, he's a trash can with magic incapability, so he can't do shit against the godly being before him. The system completes its full synchronization, configuring Si-moon's body with Thistone and converting his magic power stat to crafting power. The aftermath of this configuration leads to Simoon uncovering an entirely new stat called the unique stat. Its description? The almighty ability to craft whatever he desires. And with the situation he's in right now, all he's hoping for is to somehow destroy this entity, and to live a life where he's stronger than the pitiful alchemist he currently is. The system searches for his request but fails to cast it. So next, it targets the stone's crafting energy and searches for a book. Unfortunately, the crafting energy required is insufficient for such a request. That's why the stone exhausts its internal energy and proceeds to command autonomous crafting. Simoon's body reacts on its own, as he points his finger towards the evil god, before crafting an entirely new mythical book, causing the deity to experience shock. It can't believe that a mere human could operate his father's creation. Simoon collapses, and for the first time in his life, he draws the power source from a constellation, earning him points and earning him the attention of the rogue and unregistered constellation. Right now, Simoon is dead lost on what's going on. He's only certain that he landed a decisive hit on the deity, and before long, his consciousness fades into nothingness. After dying, Kim Simoon finally opens his eyes. What he notices upon waking is shocking. He's somehow in his old apartment, the one he used to live in many years ago. He isn't sure if his mind is playing tricks on him, especially since the last thing he remembers is dying. Then suddenly he hears his phone ringing, which hits him like another shocker. You see, by the time he died, only China and the USA were still standing, and even they had fallen into chaos. Phones had become useless, so Kim Simoon stopped bothering with them a long time ago. As he checks the phone, he notices the year, which is 2030, which means he's gone back almost 11 years into the past. Basically, he's been reincarnated into his 28-year-old body. The last thing he remembers before dying was landing a hit on that red-shot eye. He remembers wishing to shoot that red eye, and it's as if the Philosopher's Stone embedded inside him actually listened and helped him to shoot that creepy red eye. Not only that, it also helped him to regress back into time. He then also notices something unusual about his 28-year-old self. Back then, when he was actually 28 years old, Kim Simoon had never been happy. It was the hardest time of his life after that one incident that left him powerless. His vision had been so blurry that he had to rely on glasses, and all his senses felt dull and hazy. But now, that suffocating sensation of being crushed by his magic incapability is completely gone. To confirm this, he checks his stats. Among all the generic details displayed, the one thing that stands out the most is his unique trait that has been changed. His unique trait is now the Philosopher's Stone, a divine artifact. Simoon clearly remembers that his trait used to be magic incapability. The fact that it has been replaced by the Philosopher's Stone is shocking. This could only be possible if the Philosopher's Stone embedded in his chest had undergone some kind of binding process and turned into his trait. Either way, the Philosopher's Stone fulfilled his wish. He is now free from the shackle of magic incapability that had plagued him in his previous life. The frustrating magic incapability that haunted him for so long is finally gone, and the realization is so overwhelming that he can't handle the excitement while staying sober. So, he pops open a beer can and starts chugging it down, savoring his victory. Since his mana incapability is gone, his stat points have also been restored to normal. At level 1, the average stats are supposed to be all 5, but he notices he's still short by 1 point in a few areas. His agility is at 4, vitality at 5, and shockingly, his crafting power has shot up to 10. Even among super rookies, only a handful ever have stats as high as 10. But what surprises him even more is the fact that his stats have been converted. His magic power has turned into crafting power. Now that he thinks about it, he does remember seeing a system prompt right before dying. It mentioned that his magic power had been converted into a unique stat, crafting power. This also unlocked an achievement title for him, unique stat acquisition. He doesn't even need to think too hard to realize what this means. He's now a unique stat holder. Even in his past life, players like Shiyuki or that old bastard Zhongli Chu, both of whom obtained unique stats, were incredibly rare. And most of them ended up reaching high-ranking positions. He also notices a massive amount of achievement points. Since he has no clue where they came from, he's naturally curious. However, he decides to worry about the achievement points later, once he unlocks the achievement point shop. For now, he turns his attention to the titles. When he checks, he notices that he has earned a growth-type title. It's basically a title given to an alchemist who has synthesized all mythical alchemical products, granting a small bonus related to synthesis. This shocks Simoon because, in his past life, even Mal Suk, who was relatively late to the game among high rankers, had managed to dominate as a high ranker thanks to an overpowered title she got from the Celestial Demon. So, he's glad to have a title like this for himself. Next, he proceeds to check out the other titles. Once again, something catches his eye, a new title called The One Who Attracts the Gaze of the Beyond. This title is awarded to someone who has attracted the attention of a being referred to as Beyond. Whether this is a stroke of luck or misfortune, no one can say, but it's undeniably a significant event. When Simoon repeats the name Beyond to himself, it gives him the chills. It sounds ominous, especially since he has no idea what it even means. After giving it a lot of thought, he deems the title useless for now. Still, he figures that having something is better than having nothing. The only thought keeping Simoon genuinely happy right now is that his magic ineptitude has finally been cured. Speaking of magic, he decides to test it out. First, he breaks down the ignition formula, transforms it into a form suitable for magic, and injects synthesis power. And bam, he actually pulls it off. The results are exactly as he expected. While synthesis falls under the same category as magic, using synthesis power for magic is impossible. However, he's confident things will be different if he draws a synthesis circle, especially since synthesis, by nature, requires drawing one. Given how disadvantaged he's always been by not being able to use magic, he's sure that synthesis must have some unique advantage to balance it out. Determined to find out, he starts drawing a synthesis circle. As soon as he finishes, his Philosopher's Stone reacts strongly, emanating an intense dark red energy. Well, it looks like his Philosopher's Stone is rejecting the synthesis power, and hilariously enough, it's as if the Philosopher's Stone itself is mocking synthesis, calling its energy primitive and barbaric. Come to think of it, now that he possesses the Philosopher's Stone, Simoon decides to try its power instead of relying on his old methods. He remembers that back before he died, he had wished to hit that red-eyed bastard, and his wish was granted. So he decides to try using the same method again. In order to create a spear, Simoon starts visualizing its shape. Naturally, his mind drifts to the spear that bastard Zhang Liqiu used. As for its special abilities, the stronger the better. Since the Philosopher's Stone operates on an equal exchange principle, our boy decides to pay the price with his synthesis power. The moment he confirms this, an overwhelming pain strikes him in the chest. A system window pops up, announcing that his synthesis power is absolutely insufficient to perform the desired synthesis. Then, another notification hits him. This one states that the Philosopher's Stone has become unstable and requires 1 million achievement points to recover from its unstable state. He's prompted with a simple yes or no option. Does he want to spend the points or not? It's a tough pill to swallow, but considering how the Philosopher's Stone cured his magic ineptitude and even sent him 11 years back into the past, he decides it's worth the price. After all, the Philosopher's Stone has already proven its worth. With that, a notification pops up. 1 million achievement points have been consumed, and the Philosopher's Stone has fully recovered from its unstable state. My guy feels a wave of relief and even gets a little excited, thinking that alchemy is going to be a breeze from now on. But as soon as he snaps his fingers to produce the spear he wanted, nothing happens. Another notification appears, stating that synthesis power is insufficient to achieve the desired synthesis. Turns out, this isn't going to be as easy as he thought. At this point, Simoon can't help but feel frustrated. Even during his miserable days of magic ineptitude, he managed to synthesize mythical weapons. Now, with all these new abilities, it's downright annoying to think he can't even produce a single weapon. Then, another notification pops up. The Philosopher's Stone is requesting 500 achievement points to establish an equivalent exchange. Once again, he's given the familiar yes or no option, either accept or ignore. Considering that he just spent a whopping 1 million points earlier, spending 500 now feels like pocket change. So, of course, he presses yes, expecting the Philosopher's Stone to make his investment worth it. As soon as he confirms, energy begins to crackle in his hand, and the product he desires starts to take shape right before his eyes. The crackling power intensifies, and it's so noticeable that it even catches the attention of people walking outside on the streets. To top it off, a new system notification pops up, stating that an unknown constellation is watching you. The constellation Hermes is among the first to show interest in the sudden appearance of Olympus's lightning. Not long after, the constellation Athena also takes notice. Then, another notification hits. The constellation Aries has also shown interest in the sudden phenomenon. Simoon has no clue why the constellations are suddenly paying attention to him. Meanwhile, the system keeps spooking him with one revelation after another. A new message appears, stating that the constellations of Olympus are shocked by the trace left on him and have hastily distanced themselves. The system further states that only 3 kings remain seated, completely unfazed. Among them, the ruler of Olympus himself, the constellation Zeus, watches him with great interest. Simoon is completely lost. For a moment, he entertains the possibility that this might have something to do with his title, one who attracts the gaze of the beyond. Finally, the spear he envisioned materializes before his eyes. He grabs it, still crackling with intense power. A system window pops up, displaying information about the weapon. Astref, an imitation of the original weapon. A spear belonging to Zeus, the ruler of Olympus. It has the ability to wield lightning, but for some reason, it cannot fully exert its power. The name Astrophy rings a bell for Simoon. If his memory serves him right, this is the main weapon of Thunder Emperor Alexander. Alexander was revered as the Thunder Emperor in his prime. Even after losing his affiliation, he still maintained his status as one of the top-ranked players. Moreover, despite being a combat-type fighter who wielded a spear, his attack power rivaled the lightning magic of high-ranking magic users. The fact that Simoon actually synthesized such a weapon is just unbelievable. But compared to the real Astrophy, which incinerated everything around it just by being equipped, this one is merely an imitation, as its grade suggests. Even Zeus is only showing interest and hasn't made any sponsorship offers yet. Now that Simoon thinks about it, the system never actually said that synthesis was impossible. On the contrary, if he can meet the synthesis requirements, that means he could potentially synthesize the real Astrophy as well. The fact that his magic ineptitude was cured, and he was sent back 11 years, was already a miracle. But if he can synthesize mythical-grade weapons just by fulfilling the equivalent exchange requirement, then that's absolutely insane. Especially for an alchemist, having this ability is basically a cheat code. Suddenly, the spear starts to disperse and vanishes right in his hands. The guy has no clue what just happened. For a moment, he wonders if this is some kind of rebound effect from the synthesis. Upon understanding this, Simoon feels utterly disappointed. He just spent 500 achievement points to summon this weapon, only for it to disappear after a few minutes. Well, he's taking his words back about this ability being a cheat code. Then, a system window pops up with a new message. It reveals that the rebound effect can be minimized. It is proportional to the Philosopher's Stone's grade and level, and 50 achievement points have been refunded already for that weapon. This shocks Simoon, and he stares at the message, making sure he read it right. From what he understands, this means that achievement points spent on synthesis will be partially refunded once the weapon disappears. Curious, he immediately checks the stats of his Philosopher's Stone. There, he notices that his Philosopher's Stone is currently level 1 with an F grade, which means that he can upgrade it even further. But what he can't understand is why it's different from the initial stats he had seen. Initially, there was no level displayed at all, and the grade was simply marked as unknown. He has a hunch that this might have something to do with the binding and regression. Wanting to confirm his theory, he decides to ask the Philosopher's Stone a few questions. He wants to know if this change happened because of the binding, and, if so, whether the growth of the Philosopher's Stone is also influenced by him. Well, the stone does respond, but the language it uses is just pure jibber-jabber to human ears. Still, Simoon seems to understand it perfectly, and from his reaction, it looks like the Philosopher's Stone just agreed with his theory. Later we learn that in this world, magic users must go through casting before releasing a spell. Even alchemy requires a synthesis circle and materials for synthesis. But to think that synthesizing without a synthesis circle could be this efficient. It's on a completely different level from synthesizing with a circle. This is a revolution in alchemy. No, in the magic category if he has to be honest. Thanks to this, he has properly practiced a new synthesis method. With just a flick of his hand, my guy quickly tidies up his room. Even broken things get repaired as if time itself reversed. With this level of alchemy, he's sure he can't lose to anyone in any kind of competition. If he recalls correctly, on January 17th, 2039, at exactly 5 p.m., that was the day he received his first summon for the tutorial, the moment he was supposed to be recognized as a true arena player. Ironic, of all days, he regressed on the day of the tutorial summon. If he remembers right, that event was probably a territory conquest. With his magic ineptitude, he wasn't even able to step into the territory and ended up with an arrow through his head. But now, with these new powers up his sleeve, he's not afraid at all. Because he has alchemy. Suddenly, he remembers that he had gotten a text, so he picks up his phone to check. It's actually Sehyuk, his older brother. His brother reveals that he got into the Awakener Academy, reached diamond rank, and even gained another trait. Now he has a whopping 3 traits, but he has no idea how to use the trait he acquired recently. Kim Sehyuk also mentions that he hopes his older brother is seeing the sunrises. Since he himself is in his final years now, it's hard for him to go anywhere. Simoon smiles faintly, remembering how bright Sehyuk was as a kid. But now that he thinks about it, he realizes just how much his brother was struggling all alone. Now that he has regressed, he wants to save his brother, because his younger brother is the target of the Galaxy Arena. He's sure he can change things from now on, but before that, he needs to fix his relationship with his brother first. But he's not sure what to text back since he has nothing to say. He stops overthinking and just starts typing. Suddenly, his phone rings again. This time it's Lee Yu-jung. Simoon freezes for a moment, but then quickly remembers that Yu-jung is still alive in this timeline. He takes a deep breath, trying to calm himself. Just seeing Yu-jung's name has triggered memories of some horrific incident from his past life, something he still can't shake off. But he reassures himself. This time, he will change everything. This time, he won't let the tragedy repeat. It's then that his system window prompts him, congratulating him for being selected for the arena tutorial. He will be summoned shortly, so he must prepare. The summoning will begin in 10 minutes, and the system further instructs him to equip the arena access device, if he has one. Simoon feels a sense of resolve bubbling inside him. He reflects on the miserable life he lived as a magic inept user, and all the misfortune that followed him. This time, he's confident he can tear his enemies apart and rebuild them. Without a second thought, he requests early entry. Finally, the system welcomes Simoon into the tutorial and reveals that the event for this tutorial is a territory conquest. The number of participants is 100. Simoon is glad to see that it's a jungle map, the same one he had in his previous life. In order to win, he must earn points by capturing territories or eliminating other players. With that, the hunt begins. It's been a while since Simoon last participated in the arena, so for now he decides to play it safe and aim for a top ranking. A system notification then reveals that the gaze of the constellation Zeus upon him grows more intense. The system further reveals that Constellation Zeus has given him a mission. The mission window has been activated and the sponsorship window has opened as well. Basically, the mission and sponsorship, which are usually unlocked after completing the tutorial, are already available. Another window displays the mission information. It reveals that Constellation Zeus has expressed deep curiosity about Simoon, who has caught Zeus's attention and wants him to achieve first place in this tutorial's territory conquest. The reward will be 1,000 achievement points. Well, it's not surprising that the ruler of Olympus has such high standards. He'll only acknowledge Simoon if he ranks first. And just for playing a tutorial, he's offering 1,000 achievement points, which is as generous as it gets. Well, my guy is ready to prove his worth and snag the first place he deserves. He even jokingly tells Zeus to raise the amount by just 100 more, especially since that would be even more generous. But Zeus doesn't take kindly to this, and upon sensing his anger, my guy decides to stop talking shit from this point onward. Anyhow, he continues his journey, all while thinking about how stingy Zeus is. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the joint, we meet this guy, who just took down a player with a single arrow. He's feeling exhilarated by how easy it was to score a kill. But it's all thanks to the big guilds he's working with. The weapons they provided are so top-notch that all it took was a single hit. This guy is Kim Min-young from Sungsam Guild. The guild only told him to come back alive, but he can't settle for just that. After being expelled from that damn academy, he refuses to remain just another ordinary guild member. He'll make them regret abandoning someone like him. We then shift back to our boy, who is trudging through the forest in search of the little river he remembers from his past life. Eventually, he finds the stream he was looking for. Meanwhile, that same bastard Min-young is perched atop a tree. Upon spotting our boy, he quickly aims his arrow at him. Once again, he's pleased to find an easy target, one without any equipment. He believes that even if our boy has good traits, he's still just a noob with no gear. With that, he finally unleashes his devastating arrow. But my guy notices the arrow heading toward him and, with a flick of magic, conjures a water barrier in front of him, easily blocking the attack. Then, with another snap of his fingers, an explosion erupts right beneath the bastard's feet. Min-young crashes to the ground but quickly steadies himself, rising back to his feet. He is furious after learning the hard way that the opponent he is facing is a magic user. Without hesitation, he loads up another arrow and prepares to fire. But before he can, another explosion sends him staggering off balance. Yet somehow the bastard manages to save himself. Even our boy is impressed by this dude's reflexes. He had aimed right for the head, never expecting this bastard to dodge so easily. It's almost a shame that Simoon has to kill someone this talented. But at the same time, it's just as exhilarating to take down someone with skills like that. Kim Min-young has had enough of my guy's constant jabs. Frustrated, he rushes toward him. But my guy keeps throwing out explosion after explosion, yet this bastard dodges every single one. It doesn't take long for Simoon to realize that this bastard is using a B-grade trait called Swift Movements to safeguard himself. Even Kim Min-young is thrown off, as how the hell does our boy know about this? Well, that moment of distraction was all Simoon needed. He drills the poor bastard with a giant pointy rock that suddenly erupts from the ground, impaling him and leaving the bastard trapped in the rock, coughing up copious amounts of blood. The poor bastard continues to cough up blood, his vision fading. He wonders if Simoon might be from the Awakener Academy, but due to his fading consciousness, he can barely speak properly. Simoon, however, speaks up on his behalf, sarcastically asking if the bastard was talking about the Awakener Academy. If so, Simoon replies with a sassy tone, revealing there's no way a place like that would ever accept someone like him. As the bastard lies dead on the ground, Simoon notices how extravagantly he's equipped, leading him to believe that the guy must be a rookie from some famous guild. Simoon can also tell that the bastard is using a high-quality connection device, meaning the shock from his injuries in the real world would be minimal. If this were a regular arena, someone would have died from an injury this severe. Now that Simoon thinks about it, he realizes he's entered without a connection device. To get a little context on what all this talk about dying and connection devices is about, here's a quick lore dump. You see, elimination in a regular arena isn't like logging out in reality, it means immediate, actual death in the real world. Moreover, regular arenas don't just end with the death of the eliminated. If an arena isn't cleared, it leads to an outbreak in the affiliated country. If it's a dungeon or raid, the monsters that weren't killed get released into the real world. For that reason, the number of top rankers, who are capable enough to wipe out official arenas, directly correlates to its national power. But unfortunately, after one particular incident, a nation like South Korea disappeared because of the very incident, as it was unable to stop an outbreak and perished. Simoon, however, is relieved that this hasn't happened yet, meaning there's still time to change things. Right now he needs to focus on the present. Before proceeding, he checks the current state of the trial. Looking at the leaderboard, he sees that a guy named Kang Ho-young has already snagged 2 kills and holds 4% territory points. Then there's Lee Se-yoon, with 1 kill and 4% territory points under his belt. The results our boy is seeing are quite surprising, something that doesn't add up. He's not sure why the kill count is so low for all the players present in the leaderboard, even though it's been a while since the tutorial started. He starts to believe that maybe everyone's playing it safe and focusing more on camping rather than engaging in fights. Even though this is a tutorial, the matchmaking MMR probably landed them in a gold-level domination mode. This also means that participants likely have high-level traits, stats, and equipment, even though they are just beginners. And the more precious stuff you have got with you, the more you fear losing it. He also takes note that some players have already entered the capture zone, but since territory points are still at 4%, that means it hasn't been for long. And given the nature of the event, territory points matter more than kills when it comes to securing first place. But for now, to get more familiar with his synthesis method, my guy decides to go for more kills. He starts by sweeping up those who are playing it safe. A while later, he spots one player desperately running for his life. But before the guy can get far, he gets drilled by a sharp mountain that suddenly erupts from the ground, impaling him on the spot. My guy is astonished at how fast this dude was running, even while wearing plate armor. The only explanation is that he must have a speed-related trait as well. We then notice someone lurking behind a tree, ready to launch a sneak attack. But my guy casually moves his hand and thrusts the bastard with a stone. He feels annoyed by how these hyenas keep scavenging instead of having the guts to fight head-on. Suddenly, a system window materializes before him. It explains that his repeated synthesis has increased his synthesis power and that the philosopher's stone level has risen. Well, this is something unexpected. Stat increases were common at low levels, but he never expected the philosopher's stone level to rise. Well, he's glad he chose to hunt down the low-level runts who were merely trying to play it safe. Including this one, it makes 11 kills. He then takes note that he's almost near the territory, so he decides to proceed with caution. As he walks, our boy suddenly senses something unusual. It's not even inside the territory, so he's not sure why there are so many corpses here. He then calls out to the arena board, and when he takes a look, he sees that the guy named Kang Ho-young has the highest kills with 60% territory points. Meanwhile, our boy stands at 5th rank with 11 kills in the bag. Notable information on the leaderboard shows that from 1st to 4th place, their territory points are almost the same. Moreover, all 4 of them have been in the top ranks, especially since the beginning of the tutorial. The only explanation for this is that they are forming an alliance, even though forming alliances is not allowed. This is a clear violation of the rules, and no matter how much they want to be in the top ranks, teaming up in tutorials is unacceptable. While he can't seem to understand where these guys are, it looks like they're camped inside the territory. There's one guy tanking in the front, an archer in the back, and 2 swordsmen on both sides. The formation they have is very calculated, and it would be hard to penetrate their ranks. Simoon wants to save as many achievement points as possible since mission rewards are halved, but it looks like he has no choice. If they want to play like this, he'll have to become a thug as well. Meanwhile, one of the archer girls in the group quickly scans the area, finding no one. The shield guy starts throwing jabs at her abilities, thinking her eyes might be tired from trying to pick anything up in the surroundings. Of course, the archer girl gets annoyed and quickly defends herself. While all of them are goofing around and bantering, the guy with the sword isn't sure if they should be too complacent. The archer girl assures him that there's nothing to worry about with Simoon, since she knows most of the rookies from the guild pretty well, and the name Kim Simoon wasn't on the list. So this guy shouldn't be too concerning. But this is exactly why the sword guy is more concerned. To think that some guy with an unknown name got 11 kills is very alarming. But the archer girl claims that they don't need to be scared, especially since all the guys they matched with so far are idiots. She's sure Simoon is just weak, who just probably killed a few weak guys by sneaking up on them. If he were that good, he would have already reached the territory by now. She reminds him that if he's worried, he should just patrol around while maintaining their formation, but the sword guy is a bit reluctant to take any chances. His reluctance comes from the fact that all 4 of them failed the last tutorial, so they steeled their resolve and trained hard to the bone. And thanks to that, their guild, Scorpion Guild, even provided them with top-tier equipment. So as a result, they're now in the top 4 players, dominating the leaderboard this time. But the archer girl continues to persuade him to think positively and have some confidence. It's then that she suddenly notices the presence of someone. She quickly uses her clairvoyance and spots a guy standing behind a tree trunk. She loads an arrow and quickly launches it in an attempt to take down the last remaining bastard. But our boy pulls out a stone from the ground and saves himself as if it's nothing. All of them standing there are left with their jaws hanging in the air. Though our boy smirks as he acknowledges how he made sure to keep himself concealed as much as possible, yet still ended up exposed. He even knows she's using a B-grade trait, clairvoyance. Upon hearing how this dude literally knows about her abilities like the back of his hand, she's confused and startled. In order to clear her confusion, he lets her know that he's studied traits a lot. This is when she loads up another arrow, but before she can launch it at him, the sword guy steps forward as if he's planning to take on our boy instead. Arriving before the group of 4, he asks for their leader's name. Ho-young introduces himself proudly, and our boy quickly assumes he's the leader. Ho-young doesn't want to play around and merely extends his hand, offering our boy a golden ticket to join their group. This sudden invitation baffles some of his own teammates, because they think their boss is making a reckless decision of inviting a stranger in the middle of the competition. Ho-young is sharp and has already judged that our boy is probably an S-class magic user, so he knows that challenging him is foolish. Instead, he offers Simoon first position in the competition as well. His teammates try to reason with him after all. If the magic user suddenly betrays them, they will be dead meat. But Ho-young argues that it's only beneficial to them if they take him in the group, especially since magic class users are rare enough among their own guild. Finally, the thing he doesn't mention to his group. Ho-young is seriously pissing his pants because 11 kills from one player isn't an easy thing to do. His invitation to our boy is a testament to his long-term strategy, allowing them to raise their own reputation in the guild. Simoon, on the other hand, finds them really funny. It's simple. It's as if Ho-young has already convinced himself that our boy will join. Simoon emphasizes that he's quite arrogant for talking down on him. Ho-young facepalms because from his point of view, it's our boy who's being arrogant by being petty. Simoon apologizes and gets his point straight and simple. Ho-young just wants him to become part of the team, but Simoon reminds him that teaming on its own is illegal in a competition like this. Ho-young gaslights him, arguing that Simoon would be getting shit-talked by everyone if the broadcast went live. But Simoon isn't the type to be afraid of the media. After all, there's no punishment for the things he says. His continued attitude provokes Ho-young, who gives into emotion and calls Simoon overconfident for having killed a bunch of weak guys. The Scorpion Guild is a tough guild, caring only about the end results as nothing else matters. Besides, they've trained together before and they're on a completely separate playing field compared to the dudes Simoon has been fighting. Ho-young offers him one last chance to join them, as if threatening the guy. But our boy isn't a pussy and doesn't back down from a good challenge. He takes off his hood and tells Ho-young to worry for himself. Right as he says that, a sharp bolt of lightning descends into the ground. Ho-young's group are estranged by the electrifying spear before them. This fancy weapon just so happens to be our boy's best line of defense. He reminds them that he's got nothing to fear, and hence no reason to join the party of clowns. Ho-young's done with exchanging words and tells Sayun to begin. She shoots a powerful arrow at the guy, while the main character responds with Astrophy, the weapon's name. This chant annihilates Sayun's powerful arrow, and with its magnificent powers, instantly obliterates Sayun and the rest of Ho-young's men. With all of them turned to crisp, only Ho-young remains. The thing about Astrophy is that it's operating at barely 10% of its original powers. With his friends defeated, a bloodlusted Hyung dashes to take him on. Simoon is impressed that he survived the blast and charges his weapon at the guy once more. Ho-young comes face to face with death, before activating a shadow movement technique to hide away from the blast. This same technique is the reason he survived the previous blast. Ho-young menacingly appears behind our boy, ready to swing his sword and finish him off. But Simoon was prepared for a situation like this to open. So he reveals another one of his cards and uses earth magic to pierce Ho-young's body. As his final words, he still can't believe that Simoon was able to cast more magic right after using a powerful magic spell. Simoon's all confident and tells him that he never really felt threatened. He points Astrophy in his face and finishes him off with a blast. The capture zone is his and he's determined as the new ruler. The tutorial comes to an end, placing Simoon at the top with 15 kills. He's earned 100 points for tutorial completion and 1,000 points for the completion of Zeus's mission. He feels guilty for using Astrophy because he will no longer be able to keep those points. The constellation is very much satisfied with his performance. The best part is, the arena rewards are sitting there waiting for him in the real world. So this tutorial experience? It was an amazing win for him. At the headquarters of the Scorpion Jongal Guild, the Vice Guild Master has the failures of Ho Young's team all summoned and lined up. He crushes the report in frustration, furious that they didn't just lose to another team player. Instead, they lost against a single dude who didn't even have proper equipment on him. In response, Ho Young doesn't have anything to say to save his ass. The Vice Guild Master is pissed as hell and understands that defeats can't be merely blamed on a lack of skill. The man goes up and bitch slaps the fuck out of Ho Young's face for embarrassingly losing even after forming a competent team. The man shouts at him for ruining his reputation after teaming up and still losing in spite of it. This guy needs a Snickers for how pissed he is right now. Ho Young has nothing to say except an apology. That is until he tossed a bunch of papers to look at. It's actually a giant bill for the idiots who couldn't clear the tutorial despite receiving the full support of the guild. They also ruined the reputation of the Scorpion Guild, which is one other thing. So from now on, the rewards his team will earn for the next decade will be transferred to the guild. What a fucking disappointment of a contract. Raising his hand, one of the team members tries to argue against the ridiculous nature of the bill. But before this poor guy can even finish his sentence, the dude grabs him with a murderous look on his face. This guy is not playing around and even threatens to kill them all if they're being unserious about the situation. The kid apologizes for overstepping his boundaries while Ho Young and his lackeys are told to merely sign it without a second thought. So that's what they do. In the heart of Seoul Special City, the Sungsam Guild headquarters is where manager Park Min-chul is sitting confused to find out what happened. Unlike the other guy, he's not really angry at his team, but he thinks the story they're telling him is just unbelievable if anything. Orange Hair claims the same, recalling how Simoon just spammed his magic techniques, but that's not even the crazy part. The crazy part is this guy chalking up 15 kills like it's a field trip. All by himself, solo wiping even the leading team of 4. They all saw what happened to the points changing in real time. Hearing this, Min-chul is satisfied and agrees to resolve the situation through a report. He orders them to leave, and Min-chul already knows what they're going to ask him next. He assures them that their guild is actually lenient on the players for failing its tutorial phase. Wow, compared to the ass-kicking treatment the other guys received, this feels like heaven. Min-chul is expecting them to do better. The 3 of them leave, with Min-chul confirming that Simoon was indeed responsible for knocking out the 4-man squad. He wants his secretary, Yeonhee, to take care of investigations, but she reminds him that they're currently tasked with other things. Min-chul tries to butter her up with compliments, but that approach fails. Anyway, Min-chul is handed the report of the Jongal Guild's involvement in the teaming process. The 3 of them were B rankers while one was deemed an A ranker. Even Min-chul is shook on how the worst guild imaginable managed to snatch a pool of talented candidates. At the same time, he's even more intrigued by the mystery man who wiped out a veteran class team on his own. Yeonhee reports that this guy is actually a magic class type, so she suspects he must have used an overwhelming barrage of attacks. But at level 1, it's hard to believe, as the kid would still require immense casting time to set up such attacks. To that, she argues that it could have something to do with his trait. Maybe he's just an S-ranker, who knows, right? That's something Min-chul is willing to entertain as a possibility. But he thinks there's more to it than that. The fact is, a level 1 has to have a limit, which means there's something else on the table. Suddenly, Yeonhee reaches an enlightenment and suspects the involvement of a constellation. That's exactly what Min-chul is also thinking, as that would perfectly explain what's going on. At the same time, Yeonhee doesn't believe in this theory, because the kid is nothing more than a level 1 who just passed the tutorial stage. It's hard to believe that a child like him got the support of a constellation. Min-chul understands where she's coming from, as ever since the last appearance of the Galaxy Arena 15 years ago, constellations have only started appearing at the diamond rank level, or higher. They've never been the type to take an interest in low rankers. That means the kid is just an anomaly, or he's something else they can't place a finger on. Regardless, as the manager of the guild, Min-chul is beaming with the idea of hiring such a unique talent. Even Yeonhee understands that the other guilds have probably started making their play as well. The manager wants to outperform the competition. Right as they're having their talk, a portal opens as the guild master herself appears in the flesh. She's a beautiful and graceful blonde with long hair. She's also been maintaining her presence low using a stealth artifact. Min-chul didn't notice at first, but only after speaking of Simoon, he could sense her presence. The manager wonders what she's come here for, as she's also going to graduate very soon. Sitting like a boss lady with 0 fucks to give, she talks little of the academy and thinks nothing of the graduation. Hearing that, Min-chul recommends that she enjoy herself in the arena. But she's just coming from it, and he just so happened to miss her stream because of his own matters. Yoo-jung takes the report from him, causing Four Eyes a lot of trouble. She doesn't give a damn about confidential guild documents since she's the owner to begin with. Min-chul tries to steal it from her but fails miserably. Yoojung manages to catch a good read of the report and learns Kim Samoon's name. The portal opens, and this time it's our boy who has returned home. He earned a staggering amount of bonus experience points for quest completion. He's also upgraded his level by 2, and the level of the Philosopher's Stone advanced by 1 point respectively. Understanding the intricacies of the system, he believes that he'd be at level 3 without the stone. Samoon chants open the status window and learns of his various stats. His base stats are nothing compared to his synthesis power. It's quite a big gap, but Samoon has taken a liking to it. He reasons that it's because the lower his actual level remains, the bigger advantage he'll receive in the actual arena. It's simple to understand. The kid is basically acting like he has a level 3, when in reality, his status is a fake. He'll only be faced against lower-leveled players who will match against his projected level. That is until he's further assisted by the powers of the stone. It's even better than having raw natural stats, giving him an edge in every battle. Things seem to be looking great, so he checks up on how alchemy is holding up. Apparently the title didn't display any changes. He thinks it's reasonable since even Malsuk found it insanely difficult to level up her title. The fun part is that he acquired the title of a tutorial conqueror for clearing the arena with first place. But it doesn't exactly come with any special perks to go along with it. Come to think of it, he remembers that titles are supposed to be like that. They've never been valued highly, and it's hard to come across a title with actual benefit. It's not the worst thing in the world regardless. After all, it means he's only guaranteed higher tier rewards in the achievement store later. The store becomes available from gold rank and higher, and collecting titles is necessary to purchase some items. Anyway, he's thinking of investing his stat points. His first thought is to invest them right into his synthesis power. The kid reasons that 500 points won't ruin him at this point. He has to risk evolving this synthesis power stat. However, he changes his mind at the last second, realizing that it may not be the wisest investment. There's still the issue that he's lacking in physical stats, and some fighters may take an advantage off of him because of it. Samoon is thinking to raise his awakened level higher and grind for stats on the side. Suddenly, he comes up with an idea to question the Philosopher's Stone, confirming if synthesis is possible as long as equivalent exchange is promised for it. The stone confirms this, which leads to the boy's second question. Can it synthesize an actual human body? To that, there's no response. It's natural because it's a difficult question, as human transmutation like that is considered forbidden in alchemy itself. It's supposed to create chimeras who even appear in arenas sometimes. However, it's not always bad to use these techniques for good. That's how science evolved after all. Finally, the stone replies, asking if he's going to use his body for the greater good. Samoon confidently replies that it's his intention to get stronger, but if something really bad happens to him, there will have to be exceptions. The guy has an agenda to achieve on his own. The stone makes him wary of the risks of transmutation. It even highlights that the risks aren't just the main issue. The stone suddenly mentions an artifact that is opposite to the Emerald Tablet, but Samoon has no idea what it's talking about. Turns out that there's this second artifact, just like the Emerald Tablet, and it's filled with similar knowledge just like it. It all makes sense since the Emerald Tablet itself lacked information regarding transmutation and of the like. After his first time acquiring the tablet, it tested him for ownership qualifications and confirmed him as the owner. The only reason he got to claim ownership over the tablet was simple. It's because the artifact by nature can't be used by anyone. It kills any person who fails to meet its status requirements. This means our boy practically would have turned to fairy dust if he didn't please the damn tablet. Samoon questions if the Philosopher's Stone is concerned about his well-being, and if he won't be able to pass the qualification for the synthesis. It's exactly the main concern here, which ruins Samoon's plans. Just as he's about to give up, the stone shares an interesting idea. It is willing to partially block some of the penalties induced upon failing the quantification. Now intrigued, Samoon questions if the stone can prevent death itself. After receiving confirmation from the stone, Samoon agrees to become an official player as he's fine with dealing with anything so long as it doesn't turn him to ash. He transfers all his points to the synthesis stat and requests a brief update of the synthesis material from the stone. It seems that it's just like the tablet but in a different color. Visualizing that, the boy learns that it's actually black-purple in color. Just like a smartphone, it allows a convenient display of knowledge in a more accessible format. Samoon gets to work, but unfortunately his synthesis power is considered too low to achieve the desired task. It's nothing to be afraid of as he expected as much. 10,000 achievement points are required to make the trade-off. The system questions if he is ready to make the trade. It's quite the chunky offer that Samoon didn't anticipate. But the Philosopher's Stone argues that he's actually getting the Black Friday sale of his lifetime and that he should definitely invest his money. But Samoon is suspicious as even the majestic astrophy cost him merely 500 points. He had saved up to 12,000 points, and now they're about to turn to dust like Thanos in Endgame. Understanding that he's got to play risky here, Samoon makes the trade-off and the points are soon deducted from his system. All of a sudden, he feels a wave of energy culminating in his right hand. He makes a flicking gesture to test things out. That pure energy soon turned into a sinister purple and wrapped his arm as if it were a parasite. The book looks gross enough to seem alive. The system alerts him about the mythical artifact, and from that alone, he's earned 5,000 points. What's more, his alchemy title evolves and receives an upgrade. This time, it has become a growth-type title, allowing the decrease of synthesis energy consumption by 5%. Simoon understands that the reduction will only go on to increase with the evolution of the title. It's a solid deal for a growth-type title, a title that will help him the future to come. What's more, the constellation Black Goat has caught his attention, an unregistered constellation in the arena. Also, the arena has already begun discussing the greatness of Simoon. He observes the tablet with close inspection, analyzing how it contains extensive knowledge on human synthesis. It's another replica that he spent 10,000 points for, only to receive 20% of the original piece. Consistently, Simoon thinks he's gotten ripped off, but then it clicks. He wonders if there's no rebound effect for the synthesis. The stone speaks and confirms this very fact, shocking Simoon as he's happy to learn about the permanence of the artifact. That also means he's got to invest 40,000 achievement points into this piece to get the complete set for himself, allowing him access to a mythical grade item. The very thought of it makes him excited like hell. The stone intervenes and reminds him about the penalties to come. But Simoon has already prepared himself for that. In the worst-case scenario, he's hoping to alert his brother. As for the agony he's going to have to experience for this, Simoon is ready for anything. He's already suffered arena-related diseases his first time around. He had nothing to himself in his first run of life. But now, there won't be any penalties, at least from what he understands to be the case. He invokes the artifact and doesn't experience a single side effect from it. The original owner was the constellation Black Goat, and they're quite interested in him already. That means he's probably not going to experience a harsh effect anytime soon. Suddenly, the obsidian tablet requests fusion with the stone. It acts without his order and starts causing him a lot of pain. The Philosopher's Stone also accepted the demand of the fusion. Things are happening way too fast for him to process. He's just out here tangled by a bunch of tentacles spreading over his body. Simoon groans, realizing that his entire body will be in trouble if this keeps up. Now, I know what you're thinking, and no, this is not what's going on, you dirty bastards. He tries his best to fight back, but eventually, the fusion is completed between the two artifacts. The stone has now received a gradual change. A new option has been added to it. Its rank also increased, and its level has risen. As for our protagonist, he's out cold on the floor. Over to a different side, a bunch of players have just stepped foot in the arena mode called Offense. The number of players is 50, and a condition of cooperation is applied. That means teams of 5 will be made, and the arena match will begin once all teams have been finalized. The players can't believe that they're having to deal with a team offense mode after the tutorial. It's seeming a little too tough for a placement test, especially since they're in the silver rank mode. He thinks it's definitely related to that weird guy who wiped the floor with him. At the same time, this guy thinks he's got another shot at proving himself and getting his revenge. Yeah, good luck, buddy. Those are going to be your famous last words. Suddenly, he hears a bunch of roughed-up goons popping into the floor. Their leader is acting arrogant for raising his MMR score so high that they're now paired up with strong guys. Orange Hair suddenly spots the symbol on the armor. It belongs to the Scorpion Guild assholes. Each rank has its own bullies and delinquents alike, but the Scorpion Guild is just the worst of the worst. They're not Walmart bad guys. These guys mean business. They have a really corrupt philosophy and act like they own the place. Their methods are cold, and they can be classified as a high-ranking gang of thugs. And this time, they're in a party, to make matters all the worse. The Scorpion Guild assholes notice how Orange Hair is standing all by himself when it's supposed to be a 5-person team. They wonder the kind of teammates they'll get in their own party, acting high and mighty as ever. The leader notes the Sungsum Guild mark on his armor and starts to address him by his association to the guild. Kim Min-hyung introduces himself, but he's not popular, so these guys don't know a thing about him. Now, the team leader has already set his eyes on this guy's plain-looking gear. The Sungsum Guild is known for granting high-tier equipment to capable performers after all. Hearing this, Min-hyung trembles. However, they make fun of Min-hyung for being so garbage that he didn't get to receive his own special equipment from the guild. These assholes are slowly getting on his nerves, but he's doing his very best to restrain himself. Even he knows that they're provoking him for a reason, and all 3 of them are stronger than him. That's why he won't win a fight where he attacks blindly. The leader acts all arrogant around Min-hyung, ordering him to just obey what they say, and then they'll all make it out alive. But in reality, the Scorpion Guild bastards will steal the rewards for themselves and keep him out of the loop. At last, the final member of the team comes forth. It's that guy, yes, our guy. The shitty leader doesn't know a thing about Simoon and calls him nothing more than a dead weight with no equipment on him. In response, Simoon confidently asks if he's the one being talked about. The scoundrels of the Scorpion Guild are quick to draw their weapons against the newcomer. He treats them lightly until the Philosopher's Stones react on their own. This little guy has actually gained the ability to speak in the English language now. He's seriously pissed that they cursed at Simoon. All our boy was rubbing his chest in order to get the stone to calm down. The stone is actually a cute little pet who likes being pet. I don't even know how to feel about these guys. This guy's literally got a pet rock in his fucking chest. Simoon is a little upset and would have prevented the damn fusion if he knew this was going to happen. That small change in the stone turned out to be a big deal. Anyway, the others are all thinking that they scared him so hard that he's controlling his nerves. They call him a wuss for being scared so easily. The rest of his lackeys think the same and recognize that this loser doesn't even belong to a guild. Kiel is confident that Simoon is a leech who clings to others for support. But he warns Simoon that he won't be fooled like the others or taken lightly. At this point, our boy has figured out what these guys want from him. So he tries to explain the misunderstanding that's being caused because of his lack of gear. Kiel smashes his mace into the ground to intimidate the guy, but our boy isn't scared one bit. He learns Kiel's name and reveals the mere fact that low rankers aren't supposed to have high-ranking equipment at the lower level. He can only guess that Kiel has been around the arena, based on his attitude alone. Also, Simoon recognizes his association from the Scorpion Guild as well. Kiel thinks that surely this new guy is afraid of him now, but nothing like that is going on. Instead, our boy is as confident as ever, claiming that he isn't a fan of scumbags of the Scorpion Guild in the first place. This remark provokes the soy boys of the group. Kiel thinks it's unwise for him to look down on them. Now he's had it, he brings his methods to violence and attempts to crush Simoon. But Simoon merely gestures his hand and prevents the attack from connecting him. A wave of energy catches the mace. Kiel can't fathom the situation at hand. He's the one being overpowered in a contest of strength against an insect before him. Simoon, on the other hand, is enjoying himself as he mocks the fool for believing in his strength. Kiel realizes that he isn't just dealing with any hotshot as he didn't even flinch from the strike. The others quickly jump in to help, but they're promptly taken down by the orange hair. Sangbin is finished, so the other lackey furiously makes his move. But his stupidity only lands him right to death. He too gets killed in an instant before Kiel's eyes, who is shocked to find that his powerful equipment and high-level strength is being stopped by a single hand. It doesn't make any sense as to why he's so strong. To make it even more uncomfortable and humiliating for him, Simoon breaks the mace free and raises it up in the air. He's enjoying the look of despair carved on his victim's face. Kiel catches the full might of the spiked mace and instantly gets his brain smashed to the ground. Simoon reflects that the arena's difficulty is already insanely high because of the high MRR, but at the same time, the clearance rewards are just as great. The event rewards are typically split into smaller groups. That's one reason these assholes were trying to act cocky. The system tells him that his current casting of an ogre's physical strength is only 15% the replication. It's all he'll get for now, and now he's stuck with the risk of qualification and the thought of a failed transmutation. He still regrets the fusion that happened. Simoon comes to terms with it quickly and glances over to the other guy, the final teammate of the group. Minhyung introduces himself nicely while our boy is still having trouble remembering who this guy is. Minhyung refreshes his memory by reminding him of their tutorial fight. He's the guy who fought him near the river. Minhyung proudly introduces himself and his association to the Sungsum Guild. And that means this guy has to be connected to Yujung in some way. Minhyung wonders if he said something since Simoon's face looks disappointed. Simoon sways his thoughts and shakes hands with his only remaining teammate. Only the two of them are left in a 5-person team event. The 3 others died after the match began, so it's not like they're getting new replacements anymore. Hearing this fact, Minhyung considers their situation ridiculous. The participants have all been matched, so the arena is beginning for real. The time duration for the event is 30 minutes. Both of them are transported to the simulated destination. Simoon recommends they act quickly since they're already trailing behind the rest. The system informs him of Zeus's watchful eye on the boy. The same goes for the Black Goat constellation, who is also impressed so far. Simoon is astonished and questions why he's being closely inspected despite being a low ranker who is taking his placement test. It doesn't add up why 2 constellations are serious about him. The system outlines their objective to target the Goblin's outpost. Their mission goal is to clear the area within the time limit. The 30-minute countdown has just begun, but Simoon is more worried about hearing about the outpost. A checkpoint always varies depending on the location, but more or less, it's a fortress built on top of a bridge. The only problem? It's the fact that a checkpoint is popping up here when it's supposed to pop up in platinum ranks or above. Something's not right, until Simoon remembers that Minhyung and the Scorpion Guild members already reached beyond the placement test level. Their high levels are the reason this is happening. It's supposed to be fair matchmaking, so it's almost certain they're the only ones stuck with the checkpoint. Simoon is hoping to make the most out of the rewards. He wants to take out the whole fleet and get the rewards already. He asks Minhyung if his intention is to aim for kills in this event. Minhyung thinks about it for a second and expresses that he's clearly in no position to fight goblins. He would rather prefer a safer fight. Hearing this, Samoon is glad and suggests they craft a strategy around that goal. It's also a good thing since he can snag on all the kills for himself. Over to the goblins' side, these green fuckers are bored as shit being on guard duty for their boss. They're out here acting like hotshots until our boy descends on them and defeats them in a single attack. The sensitive goblins were foolish enough not to notice their presence. Also, the transmutation synthesis is taking a toll on Samoon's body since he's still not used to it. His friend is in an optimistic mood and wonders if they can seriously solo this mission on their own. Samoon is actually pretty positive to report that the goblins are only using stones and poison needles. So they really don't have anything to worry about. They can't even pierce Minhyung's armor with that. Their plan is solid, and so they advance ahead to enter the fortress. Inside, these killing machine green midgets are chewing on some savory meat. That's until they spot a human invading their fortress. However, the goblins quickly grow confident after seeing only one human rising to attack. They think he's the one who's gone insane, but it's just part of the plan. Minhyung is busy being the bait and the distraction, provoking the creatures to try harder. The goblins use their poison darts, getting extremely confident in their victory. Swarms of goblins come rushing to Minhyung from every direction, but all he has to do is swing his blade to cut them down. Unfortunately, Minhyung bites off more than he can chew and gets stabbed from his blind spot. He's on the back foot but struggles to hold on for just a little while longer. Finally, when the swarms all gathered up around him, Minhyung signals Samoon to act. And it was at that moment that our boy unleashed the mighty weapon of Zeus in its glory. A wall of lightning crashes down and shocks each goblin to the point they all get annihilated in a single attack. The rebound effects are minimized after the usage of the ability, while Minhyung is standing there speechless to describe what he just witnessed. Next, Samoon commands open the status window. He merged the tablet, and yet, the achievement points haven't changed a bit. The Philosopher's Stone is bummed to remind him of a rebound purpose. No synthesis item can disrupt it. For that, he's going to need a minimum rank B. Having witnessed the might of his weapon, Zeus smiles in satisfaction and rewards the boy 100 achievement points on top. Once more, Samoon is baffled to see the constellation's reactions. Samoon is targeting the amount required to synthesize the rest of the obsidian tablet. He thanks Zeus for his contribution as the weapon disappears for good. Even if it completely consumes the equivalent exchange investment, the rebound still happens as a side effect. Samoon has learned his lesson and knows what to do for next time. Meanwhile, a glowing circle appears, highlighting their objective. Instead of going right away, Samoon wants Minhyung to leave first, which surprises him as the goblins are obviously planning a regroup soon. Samoon insists that Minhyung leaves because he'll be fine on his own, and proof of that is the destruction he just witnessed. Minhyung understands and requests his new friend to come visit the Sungsam Guild once in a while. He wants to repay this guy for all his contributions. Minhyung is extremely grateful to Samoon as he jumps over to the objective. Samoon, on the other hand, is happy that he gets to massacre these little bastards. But all of a sudden, a giant axe swings at him from behind. The leader of the goblins nearly finished him in one swing, had he not evaded. The goblins cheer for their leader as Samoon peers his eyes to the towering monster. What he sees before him is the hobgoblin, a monster that shouldn't even be here at all. The system outlines the stronghold as corrupted, which really meant that there was a boss lurking around here. Hobgoblins are only born when exceptional goblins are corrupted by dark energy. He thinks the boss monster is a bit too much for players of this level, because this creature is just pure platinum level. Activating the Black Panther's tissue, Samoon transmutates the muscles in his body. The monster leaps away to exact its revenge for the fallen. A single swing is menacing enough to crush the ground, alerting Samoon that he should stay sharp on his toes. He dodges the second swing, but for some reason, the dodging part is too easy for him. It seems like this creature's powers are nerfed, as if this thing wasn't the real hobgoblin at all, but it's a good thing for him. After all, he wants to finish this fight on his own. Samoon activates the Philosopher's Stone, who is excited to prove its worth. However, something happens horribly. For the first time, a constellation is actually disappointed in the boy. The black goat heard that he used Zeus's powers. In the middle of his thoughts, Samoon nearly gets hit by the hobgoblin's attack. This monster, even after being nerfed, is still too strong. The black goat decides to offer the boy a special mission. This mission is tasked after he relied on Zeus's lightning bolts. That's why, to defeat this boss, he's restricted to using only human transmutation powers. The reward is a whopping 500 points. It's quite the reward for an easy mission. Samoon dodges another strike and realizes that even constellations have their pride. But he's an alchemist and has little to worry about. He accepts the mission at hand, regaining the black goat's satisfaction. But this time Zeus is the one disappointed. Both constellations start going at it against each other up in Samoon's head, while he's standing there clueless in his fight. The hobgoblin gets infuriated that this human is making a mockery of him. Simoon fixates his attention on only using transmutation abilities and believes that the mission is doable. He bursts forth with incredible speed, before preparing an ogre's muscle tissue to pack some serious punching power. His destruction punch is blocked by the hobgoblin, but its force sends him on the back foot. The monster grabs the boy's skull, aiming for an opportunity to strike back. The goblins think they've won now, and they shoot their poisonous darts to make it even worse. Since Simoon isn't wearing any gear, he gets hit by all of them. The hobgoblin insults the human who now looks like a pathetic waste in his hand. He mocks the humans but doesn't get what Simoon is scheming. The paralysis toxin has set in, so he isn't supposed to move anymore. The hobgoblin is in a mood to have fun, so he intends to chop his limbs off first. But then, Simoon suddenly catches its wrist, shocking the creature with his insane grip strength. The boy proceeds to exert his full force, crushing the hobgoblin's wrist and severing his hand. The creature screams in pain as the dynamic has now switched. It's the human making a mockery out of the goblins. Simoon looks at him with a terrifying expression, making the monster fear for its life, before eventually, its very head disconnects from his shoulders. The boss monster has been defeated. Their precious leader is all gone, and the mission has also been completed, earning him the points he needed. Simoon stands there, having earned an extra 500 points for defeating the hidden boss monster. This means that none of the players were actually required to beat this guy in the first place. The Galaxy Arena is in uproar by his latest accomplishment. There are discussions happening about the boy, and he remembers reading something similar when he first acquired the obsidian tablet. Simoon is pensive, not knowing if the Galaxy Arena's attention is going to be a good or bad thing for him in the long run. On the positive note, he understands that there's always a balance between risk and reward. Simoon doesn't want to worry about them, and instead focuses on collecting his precious rewards. Simoon suddenly finds himself teleported back to his apartment while his device quickly buzzes with several system notifications. One message confirms his achievement that he has cleared the arena's corrupted goblin foothold. He did that all alone despite the challenge being designed for a 5-person team. Because of this outstanding performance, his rewards are boosted accordingly. His Philosopher's Stone gains a notable amount of experience, and also his own level jumps by 4, while the stone's level advances by 2. Among the new prizes is the Hobgoblin Battle Axe, and for defeating the hidden boss on his own, he even receives a vial of corrupted Hobgoblin Serum. Simoon is shocked by how many rewards he got. In addition to these, he unlocks the hidden achievement of the hidden boss hunt, and racks up a whopping 1,000 achievement points. Simoon realizes that these rewards are pretty huge as it is the first boss he defeated. Checking his status window, he notes that he is now at level 7. His strength, agility, and health are all at 4, while his alchemy power is at 13. He also has a total of 9,000 achievement points, along with 4 unassigned stat points. His Philosopher's Stone sits at an E rank. A small grin comes on his face as he anticipates reaching the 10,000 point milestone soon. Curious about further progress, Simoon considers performing another transmutation on the obsidian tablet using 10,000 achievement points. The Philosopher's Stone confirms that it is possible, but cautions that the required achievement points and success percentage will increase with each transmutation. Simoon accepts this without hesitation, which shocks the stone. Simoon has long expected the costs to climb steadily after years of practicing alchemy, meaning he will need to invest his resources wisely. Looking at his stats window, he reminds himself that the obsidian tablet is a permanent item, unlike consumables such as Astra Potion, and can be used indefinitely once created. Simoon also notes that the extraordinary potential of human transmutation with the obsidian tablet is beyond question. The Philosopher's Stone further explains that the 10,000 point threshold and a 20% growth rate will persist until the second transmutation, meaning that once Simoon reaches 40% completion, the cost structure will change. This news delights him because it means that, even with a straightforward calculation, his human transmutation ability will soon double in strength. Still, he plans to keep some achievement points in reserve, since they remain his primary resource. Simoon also observes that although his clear reward has increased, it does not include any arena points, which is something he sometimes receives for arena broadcast achievements. However, he understands this, given that it is still part of the placement test phase. Glancing at his updated stats, Simoon sees his alchemy power has risen to 17, and the Philosopher's Stone has advanced from level 5 to 7. Wondering if it's the main dish, he checks his inventory, where 2 items catch his eye. The first is the Hobgoblin Battle Axe, a BB rank weapon that boosts all slashing attacks by 10% and has the unique ability to paralyze living creatures upon impact. It also provides an additional 5 points to strength, though only users at level 50 with a minimum strength of 35 can wield it. As this is a Greenskin series item, Simoon knows that it is preferred by combat types and it might belong to the axe category. Simoon muses that its attributes are on par with those typically found on platinum rank items, and even has +5 strength. This +5 is seen as the highest grade option. Normally, strength bonuses range only from 1 to 3, so confirming a +5 makes it exceptionally valuable. Although it hasn't been long since his regression, it feels as if he is encountering it after ages. He reaches into his inventory and pulls out the Hobgoblin Serum, labeled as Corrupted Hobgoblin Serum, rank C. Due to its contamination by excessive magic, its toxicity has become significantly stronger. At that moment, the Philosopher's Stone recalls how Simoon has endured countless potions until he achieves transmutation. The side effects of his magic disability have not only diminished his physical strength, but have also worsened after repeated arena battles, inflicting an indescribable pain. That's why he relies on anesthetic potions every time, and this particular serum is one of the main ingredients in his anesthetic potion. The stone then questions why he hasn't drunk the elixir he created earlier to cure his magic disability. Simoon explains that various circumstances have prevented him from doing so. The stone chides him, insisting he should have prioritized his own health. After all, that decision has allowed him to transmute in the best possible condition. Simoon agrees. Had he not transmuted the Philosopher's Stone using the elixir, his regression would never have been possible. The stone adds that regression is a phenomenon even the constellations can't undo. This comment leads Simoon to wonder why the transmutation process not only heals him, but also induces regression. The stone replies vaguely that there exists an entity responsible for that effect, but its name is censored. When Simoon seeks clarification, the stone insists it can't reveal the name, as it refers to an existence even the constellations treat with caution. Exhausted, Simoon sighs while lying on his bed, his curiosity about this mysterious force gradually fading. The stone then questions if he is simply giving up. Simoon reflects that there is no point. He can't truly understand or even hear about the being who regressed him. The stone agrees, adding that the Galaxy Arena is already giving him a hard time. This shocks Simoon a bit, so he explains that they are bombarding him with frantic messages urging him not to mention it. Changing the subject, the stone inquires what he intends to do with the serum now that his magic disability is cured. Simoon determines that there is no need to produce it as a painkiller anymore, so he considers converting it into an elixir instead. The stone stutters and questions if he will use this poison. Simoon confirms that poison are also medicine for an alchemist. The stone loves it and, visibly excited, muses at the thought of how humiliated the poison might feel once its nature is completely reversed, transformed from a toxin into a healing substance. Simoon feels a bit worried seeing the stone becoming too excited. The very next day, Simoon is looking at a tall building, remembering it being the same. The stone is also amazed seeing how huge the building is. The stone processes the site of the structure and identifies it as the player's mecca. Simoon confirms that the place is more accurately called Galaxy Agora. Curious, the stone considers whether Galaxy Agora is a structure provided by the arena. Simoon clarifies to Stone that it isn't directly managed by the Galaxy Arena. Instead, the arena oversees the broadcasting side. Shortly afterward, someone approaches Simoon and assesses whether he is the awakened one, explaining that a brief verification process is necessary. Following the instructions, Simoon deposits an item from his inventory for the check. Once verified, the attendant presents him with his player's watch. Simoon slips the watch on and notes its impressive features. It records his personal account and transaction history as data, functioning as an advanced artifact with a variety of utilities, from party recruitment to detailed internal maps of the Agora. The attendant then kindly offers assistance, asking if this is his first time at Galaxy Agora and if he needs any instructions on using the watch. Simoon reassures her with familiarity, and she wishes him a pleasant visit. Inside, the Philosopher's Stone observes the crowd and wonders whether most of the people around are players. Simoon acknowledges that many are players, some even awakened, but notes that entry requires an inventory, which he finds remarkable. The stone comments on the exclusivity, referring to it as the sanctuary of players. Curious about their next destination, the stone inquires about their plans. Simoon presses the elevator button, revealing that they are heading to the player-exclusive marketplace where he wants to sell something. The elevator opens and it's jam-packed. As he steps into it, he overhears people talking about how this year's Academy graduates being exceptionally talented, with particular praise for Kim Seok and Lee Yu-jong. Rumors circulate that they have broken through to diamond rank just 4 years after debut, solidifying their status as Korea's top players. The elevator arrives on the 4th floor. Simoon can't help but smile as he steps out, prompting the stone to take in the sheer number of shops lining the corridors and question whether all of them trade ores. Simoon explains that many shops are present, mostly guild-run rather than individual outlets. Stone questions about why the shop owners don't sell in the auction and are instead here. Simoon adds that once an item falls into a standardized category, auctioning becomes tricky since most fair prices are already established, making trading with guilds the more straightforward option. Finally, Simoon arrives at the Sungsam Guild store. As he approaches the attendant, he notices the weapons and realizes how clean and sleek the shop is, which is why it's called Big Corporation in the first place. The attendant greets him with a gentle smile and inquires whether he needs assistance finding something. Simoon clarifies that he is not there to buy but to sell. The attendant reacts with surprise, noting that it has been a long time since someone has come in to sell items. Without hesitation, Simoon places his hobgoblin battle axe onto the counter. The attendant's eyes widen in disbelief upon inspecting the weapon, recognizing its exceptional +5 strength bonus, the best enhancement available so far. With a slight grin, Simoon inquires about selling the axe on the spot. The attendant confirms that it is possible and proceeds to display the recent market data and pricing details for hobgoblin battle axes traded in the Galaxy Agora. Simoon's mouth drops open upon seeing a listing for 42 million. Though the attendant mentions that a similar axe with only a +4 strength bonus sold for 38 million just the previous day. Adjusting his glasses, the attendant fixes Simoon with a sharp, almost sinister stare and questions how he has come into possession of the item. He notes that Simoon appears to be a production-type player, but does not seem to be high level. Simoon acknowledges the attendant's surprise, prompting further inquiry about his level. When Simoon reveals that he is level 7, the attendant chuckles and speculates that he intended to pocket the full cash amount without any arena points. Simoon maintains his composure, responding politely and insisting that there must be some misunderstanding, explaining that he acquired the axe from running the arena. The attendant laughs derisively, asserting that a level 7 player shouldn't be able to obtain a platinum rank item that drops only for top-tier players. Before Simoon can defend himself, the attendant leans in with a greedy smile, suggesting that if he presses the bell, the Agora guards will soon trace the stolen goods back to him. He offers 10 million for the axe with a side offer of not revealing this to anyone. Simoon finds himself stuck in it until he hears a girl named Li Yujong calling the manager out on his act. A few moments later, Simoon and Li Yu are sitting on the bench where she offers her soda. As Simoon watches her hand, his thoughts drift back 9 years to a haunting memory. Li Yu's hand, gripping a blood-soaked hammer. That very hammer had shattered the head of her own grandfather, Chairman Li Sunchul. The event had unleashed an unforgettable horror, and not only the chairman but also several high-ranking officials' heads were blown away, which is said to be a turning point that many believe paved the way for South Korea's downfall. Simoon still cannot fathom why it all happened. The shock of that day lingers in his mind, and even the live viewers and commenters had been utterly stunned. That day, Li Yu seemed like a completely different person compared to the one he remembers. Noticing that Simoon has not taken a sip of his drink, she teases him, questioning whether he has suddenly changed his taste. Simoon apologizes, admitting he has been lost in thought for a moment. Li Yu observes that he has not changed at all. When he is focused, he does not notice anything around him. Simoon wonders if that is truly how she sees him, and she affirms that it is. Because of him, she explains, she has learned the charm of a man who dives deep into his passions. Simoon takes a sip and returns her smile, assuring her that he remains the same. Just then, someone calls out for Li Yu. She explains that she has sent the deposit details she mentioned earlier. When she sees the message, she is surprised, then tells the young girl, whom she affectionately refers to as Da Young, that the deposit details are a bit different from what she expected. Da Young agrees with her assessment. Li Yu then informs Simoon that she has transferred 50 million won to him as the settlement for the hobgoblin battle axe he has sold. Simoon is taken aback as the amount is more than the usual price. She explains that it is compensation for a mistake one of her employees has made. Although she wishes she could have given him even more, certain circumstances prevent it. Simoon reassures her that it is fine. He remembers that despite her close ties to the business, she believes in keeping personal matters separate, and with a warm smile she notes that Simoon also has remained unchanged, which is why she can speak so candidly with him. Simoon finds her behavior a bit cheesy, leaving him momentarily speechless as he wonders what is really going on. Perhaps enough time has passed, he thinks, and her eccentricities are not so strange after all. They leave the bench together, and as they walk, Simoon inquires about Ant's condition. She replies that she is still unconscious but is okay. She has been visiting her regularly to take care of her. Curious, Simoon wonders if it is just because she is busy with playing in the arena. Blushing, she admits that she has been using those visits as an excuse to spend more time in the arena. She even sets up a dedicated access device in her hospital room. Then, recalling that Simoon has mentioned he gets the hobgoblin battle axe from the arena, she feels a note of concern and wonders if his body has fully healed. Simoon smiles and confirms that his magic incapacity is completely healed. Li Yu's face lights up with relief at the news, and she quickly apologizes for her reaction and congratulates him. A bit hesitant, but she then manages to ask how he recovers. For a brief moment, Simoon thinks before he admits that he is just lucky. He starts feeling his magic slowly return until it is completely healed. Li Yu's relief deepens as she confesses how worried she has been. Despite searching high and low for a remedy, no one has found a cure for magical disability. Simoon then adds that the effort she has put in all these years is enough and that she should not blame herself. His words touch her deeply. He continues, saying it is just an incident, and that he only does what comes naturally. As she begins to speak further, Simoon gently cuts her off, insisting that his past choices are final, saying that he cannot help but wonder why he has left his two younger siblings' messages unanswered since that fateful day. There was no external pressure. Being born of an outsider is enough to be a nuisance in his family. The incident has left him disabled as a player, and while the Kim family might have preferred him to vanish completely, it is ultimately his own choice to sever ties with the siblings he has grown up with, even though they continue to reach out. The memory of that loss is deeply embarrassing. He has once been destined for greatness with a magic stat of 10, only to lose everything in one devastating accident. That day, he has drawn an unbridgeable line between himself and the world, both physically and mentally. Perhaps in his heart, he even resents them, if not for the two who have truly mattered. He often wonders if his life might have been different, especially for Li Yu. Had he stayed by her side, maybe she would not have been labeled a traitorous villain. With a bright smile, Li Yu then wonders if he has started the arena recently. Distracted by his thoughts, Simoon stutters that it has only been a few days, and that he has not even finished the placement exam yet. Hearing this, Li Yu remarks that he must be in need of some equipment right now. Without hesitation, she suggests that they head to the store together to pick up some gear. Simoon, a bit nervous, responds that he is not really in a hurry. Li Yu, puzzled, teases that he should be in a hurry for equipment, considering he is in the magic class. He acknowledges that she is right, but clarifies that his job is now alchemist. She then wonders if he intends to use the money from the sale to buy alchemy materials. Simoon confirms that he is, adding that he is lucky enough to pick up a few new recipes recently. Smiling, she notes that it is great because she actually needs some materials too. Curious, Simoon asks what kind of materials she needs since she is in the combat class. With a cheerful swing of her fist, she teases that combat classes do not just endlessly swing weapons, they also brew potions to improve their training. Simoon admits he hasn't realized that, but he adds that it might be more efficient to consult an alchemist or another producer about potion making. With her skill, she probably gathers any potion needed with ease. Grabbing his hand, she reminds him that time is short as she needs to visit her mom in the hospital soon, and eagerly pulls him along to buy the supplies. Since Simoon, being in the combat class, moves a bit slowly, it is faster if she leads the way. De Young, watching the scene, feels surprised at the transformation. She cannot believe that the young lady she once knew now looks completely different. Maybe this is her true form after all, she murmurs quietly to herself. At the market, vendors sell a variety of products and potions. Still holding his hand, she guides Simoon through the bustling stalls. After browsing the entire market and its many offerings, she tells him to wait a moment longer as according to her alchemists are always running low on materials. Simoon explains that the materials they gather are more than enough, as he has already bought more than he expects. She urges him to take just one more item, promising it will truly be the last one. Simoon protests that his inventory is about to burst, yet she insists that one more item will not hurt because there is something special she really wants to give him. Simoon finds shopping with someone else to be more intimidating than he has imagined. Observing her looking through items, Simoon realized that she got keen eye for details even for materials of the same grade. He muses that while such attention might be essential for others, for someone like him, who crafts philosopher's stones and mythic-grade weapons, detailed material quality is not as critical. Finally, after she finishes shopping, she surprises Simoon by handing him an arena connection device. She explains that it is the latest model from Sungsam Guild, still unreleased to the public. These arena connection devices come in various forms, from helmets to capsules and goggles, and are, impressively, the result of direct collaboration between the Galaxy Arena and governments around the world. At first, only dominant nations like the US and China have the means to produce these devices. However, Galaxy Arena takes an unprecedented step. It directly reaches out to governments around the world to put an end to the monopoly and exploitation enforced by those two superpowers. Along with a stern warning against such monopolistic practices, the arena even threatens to revoke the player qualifications of everyone from the US and China if they continue down that path. Simoon, feeling curious, wonders if it is really okay for him to receive something like this. She smiles and reassures him, explaining that everyone in Sungsam's guild, especially the higher-level players, is already using it. He hesitates, considering that he is just an outsider, and questions whether she should be giving it to him. Grinning, she personally assures him that it is not a problem at all. Her expression then shifts to a more serious tone, as she firmly states that if Sung Sam comes looking for it, he must tell them that she is the one who gave it to him. Samoon is momentarily at a loss for words. Before he can process it, she presses further, suggesting that it would be better for him to simply purchase something from the Sung Sam store. Wittingly, she teases that if he dives into the arena without a connection device, he might end up injuring himself. She bites her lip slightly, and Samoon notices that her stubborn nature is showing. Crossing her arms, she continues, thinking of it as a way to repay the rudeness Samoon experienced from the branch manager earlier. With that framing, Samoon accepts the gift gladly. Not only is he happy to receive the device, but it also comes at a perfect time. He'd been planning to start streaming his arena runs soon, making this gift even more timely. Noticing the time, Samoon informs her that he has to leave. She readily agrees, explaining that she is just about to visit her mom in the hospital. Samoon then recalls that her mother is suffering from an arena-related illness, a condition that has appeared once among awakened players, similar to the magical disability he has once endured. Although Samoon doesn't know the exact name of her mother's disease, he remembers that she had once been chosen by the constellations, so she should be strong enough to hold on for a while. He also recalls that she had once treated an illegitimate child much like her own, which further convinces him to work quickly on developing a cure. Li Yu affectionately grabs his arm again, then reminds him that he needs to reply to her message as well. Samoon is unsure what she is referring to. She complains that Si-hyuk is bragging about how much Samoon replies to him, so why not her? Finding it a bit annoying yet endearing, he assures her that he will message her when he arrives. Her face lights up with happiness at his words. He, out in flow, touches Li Yu's hair, but immediately remembers that girls really dislike having their hair touched unexpectedly. Flustered, he awkwardly warns her to take care and decides to go before anything even more awkward can occur. With a soft smile and a quick wave, he bids her goodbye. Do-young walks up and remarks that Samoon really has no manners. Even if he knows someone, touching their styled hair like that is completely inappropriate. But then, to her surprise, she notices something odd, making her think that Li Yu might be angry. Concerned, she reassures Li Yu not to worry too much, promising to fix it quickly. Deep down, Do-young hopes nothing escalates here. It would be too troublesome if it does. There are too many eyes on them, especially since everyone around is a player. Even with Sung Sam's influence, keeping things quiet would be difficult. But then, something unexpected happens. She sees Li Yu blushing. Li Yu, clearly flustered, shyly mumbled to herself, urging herself to pretend she hadn't seen that. Do-young, smirking, thought that today was turning out to be really strange. Getting back to business, Li Yu changed the topic, asking about the thing. Do-young raised an eyebrow, unsure of what Li Yu was referring to. Li Yu cleared her throat, leaning in slightly, signaling that it was safe to speak freely, as it was just the two of them. Hearing that Do-young revealed that incident from 10 years ago is shockingly still in the shadows, as they did not uncover a single clue. According to her, it's as if someone had erased all traces of it. That was the strangest part. The upper class in Korea had been attacked by terrorists, yet there wasn't a single shred of information left behind. According to Li Yu, even the media, known for jumping at the chance to expose the smallest scandals, had been silent all this time. Do-young nodded in agreement, revealing that the Saint Group's heir had trolled on a personal stream, turning it into a nationwide scandal. Yet this event, nothing. It was all too suspicious. Li Yu agreed, her mind turning over the details that the heir of Saint Group was just a third-generation chaebol who had won a small gold medal. Yet, a single trolling incident from him had caused the entire country to erupt. If something that trivial could be blown out of proportion, then the fact that this incident had been completely buried seemed far too unrealistic. She paused for a moment, adding that it really seemed like someone was deliberately covering it up, and that someone must hold significant power. Do-young met her gaze and nodded, saying that it is true, and if they dug any deeper, they would definitely run into problems. Li Yu smiles at her, asking if she's scared. She argues that she's only checking to see if Li Yu is okay, pointing out that Li Yu has more to lose than she does. Li Yu thinks she has nothing to lose, but as she watches Samoon leave, she realizes she now has something to fight for. This is why she wants to uncover the truth, and Do-young warns her that there is no turning back from this path. Li Yu orders her to search for records and bring them to her. If any awakened individuals are involved, she smiles as she commands, "Bring her their heads, as she's found an interesting use for them recently." As night falls, Samoon collapses onto his bed, exhausted. As he settles in, the stone asks him about Li Yu. Samoon reveals that they grew up together but haven't seen much of each other lately. The stone agrees, but Samoon senses that it wants to know something more. In its thoughts, The stone acknowledges that Li Yu seems like a different person on the inside, a stark contrast to her outward demeanor. The stone understands that Simoon has known her since childhood, so it decides to help her only when she's in trouble. Out loud, it brushes off the question, changing the subject and urging Simoon to start making the elixir. It takes a while to make and is good to recover from the fatigue. Hearing that, Simoon stretches his arms and agrees to work on it. He gathers the necessary materials and books from his inventory, then summons a large log, transforming it into a table in the corner. Simoon is impressed by how neatly his alchemy station has turned out. He arranges everything on the table to make the process of elixir making as efficient as possible. The stone is curious about how Simoon will handle the elixir's effects. Simoon confesses that he usually enhances the ingredient's effects, but this time, he's using corrupted hobgoblin serum for that purpose. According to Simoon, goblin-related ingredients are often linked to paralysis. The stone notes that paralysis poison is typically made from the goblin's own blood, meaning they need to purify the corrupted magic within it. The stone is a bit shocked, realizing Simoon is aiming for an additional effect related to that poison. Simoon confirms that he's choosing the corrupted option since the stat boost from the elixir will remain the same. The stone becomes enraged, shouting that if Simoon goes as far as using demonic energy, it could destroy his body. Simoon smiles and confirms the stone's fear. The stone worries that Simoon might lose all his magical abilities if he's not careful, but Simoon reassures him that he has everything under control, as he knows someone who handles demonic energy well. Pressing his chest, Simoon urges the stone to focus on what's in front of them for now. Simoon explains the entire process to the stone and asks for its opinion. The stone praises his thinking, and Simoon, with a grin, brags that it's just because he's smart. Simoon asks the stone if what he's about to do is possible, and the stone confirms. Though the stone can't say for certain, it agrees with Simoon's explanation and understands his plan. Simoon becomes excited when the stone compares it to the obsidian tablet, noting that since it isn't a tool that uses abilities, it should work. According to Simoon, they're crafting a book of knowledge, but it's similar to the obsidian tablet, with the later stages expected to be quite costly. Simoon asks how many alchemy points the process will cost, and the stone replies that if Simoon's power supports it, it shouldn't be an issue. Simoon realizes that they're trying to craft something of mythical tier, which might require exceptionally high alchemy stats if they plan to rely solely on power. It seems nearly impossible, even if Simoon maxes out his rank A stats. Now it makes sense to Simoon why mythical grade items are so rare and are only granted conditionally by the constellations. Simoon asks the stone how many alchemy points he will need for the process. The stone reveals that it depends on the quality, but they got lucky with the obsidian tablet. The stone comments that, as an alchemist, Simoon benefited from that lucky bonus, claiming that it's also a result of his own charm. Simoon doesn't see it that way, but the stone insists that he is quite beautiful. Returning to the point, Simoon wonders about the quality he should aim for. He knows the stone is likely referring to a grade counterfeit, and lowering the quality would make the process cheaper. He considers that if it's something like a weapon, such as the Astraf, it might be fine. However, since the book involves knowledge, if the quality is too low and the lines are cut through, it would be useless. Simoon decides to make it low quality, but just enough so it doesn't get interrupted in the middle. Curious, he asks the stone if it absorbed the obsidian tablet. The stone confirms that it did, as it was a crafted item. A smile spreads across Simoon's face as he realizes that it can absorb the book if he crafts it. Excited about beginning the process, Simoon still hasn't decided on the quality yet. When the stone asks, Simoon reveals that they're going for 10%, which will be enough for what he needs. The stone is impressed that Simoon understands the structure of crafted items, but Simoon claims it's just something he heard. In his previous life, Simoon was asked by Malsuk to interpret the Heavenly Demon Divine Art book. Simoon couldn't even see the letters, as only inheritors could read them. However, Simoon knew that the book was divided into 10% segments for each rank. According to that, the part corresponding to 10% of the book would contain the first rank's spell. It was a high-ranking creation, like Malsuk, with only 7 parts. Simoon had originally planned to read the entire book, but now that he realizes the stone can absorb crafted items, he no longer needs to interpret the spell. He just needs to prepare his body. Looking at his hand, he feels optimistic, thinking that a human transmutation should be enough for the body. With that in mind, Simoon asks the stone about the cost of a 10% knowledge book. The stone reveals that it costs 5,000 points. The stone also adds that, since the book is of mythical level knowledge, the latter parts will be much harder. However, Simoon remains confident because they can read the first part right away. As he snaps into the process, a notification window appears, claiming that he lacks sufficient alchemy power and that his stone requires an additional 5,000 points to complete the exchange. An accept or decline window pops up, and without hesitation, Simoon presses accept. Suddenly, he is engulfed by a surge of dark energy, and a mythical page flies right into his hand. It's the 10% counterfeit grade Heavenly Demon Divine Art book. He presses the page against his stone to absorb it, and is pleased to see that the constellation doesn't react. As the absorption process completes, the stone reveals that, even though Simoon absorbed the knowledge, truly understanding it seems nearly impossible. Suddenly, Simoon starts feeling dizzy, a sensation similar to when he underwent regression. He collapses, losing consciousness. When he wakes up, he is shocked to see an unfamiliar but beautiful waterfall and its surroundings. As he processes what just happened, he hears an old man asking if he is all right. Getting up and dusting himself off, Simoon confirms that he is fine. The old man notices that Simoon isn't like other young people and offers him a seat beside him. However, to Simoon's shock, as the old man twists his fist, the wind pushes Simoon toward him, forcing him into a kneeling position. Simoon, still stunned, reveals to the old man that it's a shock to meet a constellation face to face. The old man laughs, surprised that Simoon knows him. With a smile, Simoon explains that it's due to the techniques he learned from the Heavenly Demon art book. Laughing, the old man understands and introduces himself as the constellation known as the Heavenly Demon. Suddenly, a notification window pops up, claiming that Simoon has earned 5,000 points as the first person to meet a constellation. However, the system issues him a warning about the Heavenly Demon being a dangerous entity for sanity, stating that if any emergency occurs, Simoon will be summoned back to Earth. Simoon realizes how grim the situation is, especially with the system warning him about it. The old man grows annoyed by the notification and angrily shoos it away. Simoon, still sitting there, asks if he summoned him to discuss the Heavenly Demon art book, but the old man denies it, revealing that his interest lies elsewhere. With a deep probing tone, he asks, "Who exactly is Simoon?" This shocks Simoon to the core, wondering if the old man knows about his regression. Even Zeus and the Black Goat were unaware of Simoon's regression, so it feels strange that a high-ranking constellation would be asking about it. The old man, receiving no answer, throws another question at Simoon about how much do he really know about him. Hearing the question, Simoon recalls Malsuk using harsh words to describe the constellation. However, Simoon praises the constellation, saying that the version he knows is quite impressive, just like the demon realm itself. Hearing Simoon's answer, the old man laughs, realizing that Simoon is quite clever and responded well. As the old man reveals his ambitions, Simoon notices the ferocity in his eyes he recognizes from his past life. Simoon realizes that these eyes must belong to a constellation at least on the level of the Heavenly Demon. Suddenly, the Demon King directs his gaze at Simoon, teleporting him into an endless black void. Rather than feeling fear, Simoon senses a strange familiarity with the void. This amazes the old man. As being a mere immortal, Simoon stands there unshaken. The old man teleports into the void as well, asking if Simoon will still pretend that he doesn't know. Simoon reveals that it must be due to the title he acquired, which reads, "The One Who Receives Attention from Beyond." Hearing the word beyond, the old man starts laughing loudly, as Simoon has just described himself as an entire dimension. Simoon grows a bit nervous, realizing that the old man has met the being called Beyond. The old man confirms it, but Simoon, aggravating him further, reveals that he also lost to it. This enrages the old man, prompting him to channel a powerful killing intent around them. Simoon can feel the overwhelming power, but he isn't afraid. He knows that if anything happens to him, the Black Goat will intervene. The old man, now realizing Simoon's cocky attitude, finally understands why Beyond showed interest in him. He calmly accepts that he lost to Beyond, and that's why he's also curious to see what Simoon possesses that caught Beyond's attention. He steps closer to Simoon, revealing that it took him thousands of years to gain Beyond's attention. Simoon is shocked by this, and the old man adds that Simoon has no idea about that being. As he speaks, he becomes increasingly annoyed by the notification window popping up and disturbing him mid-speech. Regaining his focus and turning his attention back to Simoon, the old man clears his thoughts and refers to Simoon as his disciple. He reveals that their meeting must come to an end. Simoon is slightly taken aback by being called a disciple. However, the old man explains that since Simoon has learned the Heavenly Demon Divine Art, in a way, it makes him his disciple. The old man also claims that he welcomes Simoon to learn his technique, even expressing pride in the fact that someone under that being's gaze is learning his methods. The old man then makes a request of Simoon. As he speaks, a request from the Heavenly Demon pops up in front of Simoon. The request reveals that the Heavenly Demon is looking for a disciple, and the reward is 5,000 points plus the Heavenly Demon Divine Art at a 2-star level. Simoon is stunned, wondering what might happen to Malsuk if he accepts. He realizes that his decision could drastically change her future. The old man puts his trust in Simoon but reveals that there's a condition attached to the request. According to him, he wants his disciple to be a female, and one who is notably beautiful. He goes into detail about the physical appearance she must have, which makes Simoon wonder if the old man is talking about a future partner rather than a successor. The old man calls it the role of being a deputy to a martial artist, tasked with finding a beautiful disciple. As Simoon listens, he realizes that Malsuk's future as the next heavenly demon remains unchanged. Also, now Simoon understands why Malsuk cursed him out so much. Simoon wakes up to the sound of his stone buddy calling out his name. Neither of them know what happened or why he even fainted. Simoon explains his first encounters with a constellation, which shocks the stone because he assumes Simoon came in contact with the heavenly demon. This constellation is known for being a brute among the rest and favors bright colors. Simoon has no idea what the actual flip he's talking about. Simoon confirms that he had no fishy encounters with the demon. It's good enough that he returned in one piece after facing the old man. It's only because of the fact that he looked charming that the demon spared him. The Philosopher's Stone believes that the demon must have taken a liking to Simoon for it to have spared him. Simoon reveals that the old geezer was actually thankful for him learning the technique, which is good for them. In any case, it's necessary for him to craft the elixir now that he can handle demonic energy. So our boy gets to work, and he's fine without even the Sotni's help. He attempts to remove the poison, which makes the serum boil up before changing color. It goes from green to a light orange. The stone acts like a talkative child who has to note down every last detail, and Simoon finds him strange for that. Anyway, the pill is complete. Simoon decided to go for a pill instead of a serum because he lacked a proper container. He holds the sphere and inspects the status. It's a bloodflower pill, graded the level C. It allows for the maximization of the demonic energy lurking inside of it. Simoon is impressed with his creation and was initially nervous, but he's glad that he was able to confirm the stat increase options and work out its composition without much trouble. The grade C is only because of the poor ingredients that were used, but its abilities are good enough for what they are. The stone sings praises of our boy, but also tells him that he may not get the demonic energy he's looking for. After all, it's still uncertain. Simoon confirms that normal people are supposed to play by those odds, but he's got the technique of the heavenly demon. So now he just has to channel it correctly after consumption. So he takes a leap of faith, popping the pill in his mouth before entering a state of meditation. Dark, chaotic energy emanates from his body, increasing his strength, agility, and constitution stats thanks to the elixir's might. After that, Simoon finds himself in a mental space where he locates the purple demonic spirit. He reaches out to grab it before it fades away. Simoon requests the assistance of the Philosopher's Stone, knowing that he can't stop it alone. The cute little stone captures the evil troublemaker, while Simoon is just glad his plans didn't get blasted. First, he wants to create the Dantian and then the Celestial Circuit. Before he's able to do so, the stone urges him to reconsider his plans. He wants to know if it's really necessary to create a Dantian in the first place. The alchemist realizes that there's actually no requirement for the Dantian, as it's just a condensed form of storing chi. The Philosopher's Stone thinks it's unnecessary for someone like Simoon, who at his present possesses the world's best condensed form. The Philosopher's Stone can do an unlimited amount of things, and hence it is considered the ultimate condensed form. Simoon confirms that he shouldn't have any trouble invoking the stone as its Dantian, and there's a chance it may work better. Besides, he still learned the demonic technique, and he's an alchemist on top of it. Being reminded of his true talent, Simoon confirms that alchemy is the one thing that altered the course of his existence. He thanks his best companion for granting him an enlightening realization. With that, Simoon fully absorbs the demonic energy and acquires a new special stat on top of it. His Dantian has fused with the stone, and with its influence, the demonic energy is converted into synthesis power. Simoon checks his attribute stats and realizes that he possesses 8 demonic stat points. It's shocking that he's already at this level for a unique stat. The stone tells him that attribution is fundamentally different from symbiosis. So while his typical synthesis power is 17 points, his demonic energy points are at 8. That's roughly half. Simoon realizes something shocking. This means the more his synthesis power grows, his demonic energy will increase in proportion to it. The stone confirms this, using itself as an example. The more Simoon grows, so does the stone. This is a lottery ticket win for our boy, who is seriously glad that he gets to knock down 2 birds with 1 stone. It makes him thrilled for his performance in the next arena. Fast-forwarding ahead to the next arena battle. This event is called Survival Mode, featuring 100 participants. The arena mode will initiate once the participants have arrived. Some of the players are annoyed because this mode is seriously irritating. The commentators are making fun of this guy and the situation, but he thinks it's normal for survival mode to appear among the higher ranks. The Discord commentators out here are shit-talking him down, while he looks at his customers, telling them the dangers of survival mode and how it affects their party as a whole. It means they can't group together in this event, even after paying him a staggering amount of 10 million. The commentators are having fun shit-talking to him for taking the money without offering refunds. The dude tells them to calm down and emphasizes that they shouldn't pay attention to the keyboard warriors. He explains the reward system for a mode such as this. With 100 participants, the rewards kick in at 50th place. This means that he'll do his best to get them to the highest place possible. The Money King gloats about his reputation, and even points to the commentators who understandably agree with his skills. It's hilarious to me because I know for a fact that if this was the real world, people would still be flaming his ass. The customers are happy to have entrusted him for his skills, but they don't quite get how he's going to achieve the goal. He explains that they'll still form a team, which seems like a harsh blow to their reputation. The dude explains that they're operating in an abandoned mind map anyway, so if they can just sit back and hide, no one will notice their elaborate plans. His words pack the punch because players at this level usually don't have a sharp detection ability. His methods are simple. He will merely annihilate the rest of the players until the 4 of them are left. After that, he'll just unalive himself and leave them as the winners. These 3 will have to decide on their own for first place. They paid the same amount equally, so he can't really meddle with their rankings. While they're concocting their schemes, our boy enters the chat. Literally speaking, he enters the room. Like always, he gets underestimated as an easy first kill. Since this is a broadcast, even the chat is making fun of this seemingly trash dude. With the participants matched, the location is set and the match is about to begin. He instructs the customers to hide, arrogantly eyeing down his target. Simoon is more than happy to meet him in kind, and the match finally begins. Thanks to his recent achievements, Simoon experiences a change in regulations. His starting point placement period will end. He's pretty confused by what's going on. The placement period is being cast aside with a single match, so he wonders if this is being done on purpose to help him advance faster. He was only stuck at level 1 before his regression, but now he can climb to greater heights. He's gained powerful abilities, and it's the opportunity of a lifetime. Also, he forgot to turn on the broadcast, so he does that. All 3 constellations immediately hop into the broadcast, which is shocking to him. The fight begins as his opponent throws a powerful punch, knocking our boy away. This dude is hella confident that he can defeat anyone since he's powerful enough to challenge players of the diamond rank. He loves beating up weaklings, but little did he know, our boy actually caught his second attack. He returns an equally powerful blow in his abdomen, shocking the guy immensely. Even the chat is confused because they don't know what's up with the new guy. He commends Simoon's powers, but our boy is also wary of him because he deflected his attack with a technique. Knowing his opponent is using his fists, he judges the dude for being a fighter type. The Philosopher's Stone alerts him of his scumbags hiding behind, allowing Simoon to get a rough understanding of the situation. He calls out the dude for being a booster, smurfing the ranks and helping these low-level clowns get ahead. Simoon's uninterested in paying him any respect as he's just boosting other players for money. It's not the customers that are the main issue, but rather the boosters who ruined the arena. The regular players have to deal with players beyond their skill level. The loudmouth is impressed to see Simoon's cocky attitude even after his admittance of being a higher-level player. Chat makes fun of him, while he goes on a way to provoke Simoon, somehow thinking that this psychological tactic will give him an advantage in the fight. He's also pissed that Simoon countered his surprise attack, and feels humiliated for it. So he wants to return our boy to double the damage. But the alchemist is sharp on his feet. He calls him out for attempting to use provocation and low-tier manipulation. Simoon mentions that he isn't even angry at the occasion, and he's even more delighted that one of the viewers assigned him a really rewarding mission just now. His opponent laughs in his face, mocking him for believing he's important enough to receive missions. In a silver lobby, receiving missions is pretty much a joke. Simoon confirms that he did get a mission despite the placement period, and he confirms that he's talented enough to be rewarded for it. He jumps ahead to take a jab at his opponent, who feels in control of the battle for luring Simoon in. The dude attempts a counterattack, and both their punches are met at a stalemate. He goes for another swing, but Simoon dodges it and continues to evade his blows, before sneaking in a powerful strike to his belly. This deals actual damage, painful enough for the guy to stagger. He's starting to question the kind of player Simoon actually is, since he created an opening out of that chaotic situation. Deeming him an unordinary person, Donking feels humiliated in front of the viewers and his customers, so he decides to swing at our boy with 100% of his strength. Simoon dodges his monstrous attacks and thinks he's subpar even at his best. He happily returns the strike with a punch so powerful that launches him straight into the nearest wall. Donking can't believe that he's the one being pushed back, questioning the kind of power this random guy holds. His customers worry for him, while he continues to swallow humiliation. He goes back into the fight, provoked as ever, readying a kick. To counter, Simoon responds with a heavenly demon technique and unleashes a technique so powerful that it shatters Donking's ankle. Beyond infuriated, dude goes crazy and initiates an A-rank trait called Trigger. Simoon is wary of this guy's attack and understands that dodging would be the right choice here. However, he's got a mission to accomplish, so he invokes the ogre's body tissue transmutation and pairs it with another demonic technique to send chaotic waves in Donking's way. Their techniques are at a stalemate. The clash continues with both sides exerting their full strengths. The aftermath is extremely brutal. Donking is covered in blood on his knees and has just lost his arm. This is some Naruto versus Sasuke type shit. He can't even fathom how he lost and plummets to the ground, helping Simoon achieve the first blood in the arena and earning a reward. Our boy is glad to have earned the Heavenly Demon's satisfaction. He's showing Simoon a lot of trust by offering him missions and points, which he hopes to accomplish. The arena praises him for earning the attention of 3 constellations and throws in a whopping reward of 1,000 points for free. Having earned the title of King's Pick, Simoon has increased all his stats by 3 points. He's shocked to learn the unique property of this title, allowing it to renew each time he receives a sponsorship from a new constellation. At the same time, his points will drop if his constellations disapprove of him, so there's the reduction aspect included. Popping open the status window, he's glad to learn that his demonic stat points haven't taken a hit. Simoon's trying to be optimistic about the situation, and for now focuses on completing the missions. As for the customers, they're at a loss for words, seeing their best man fail. They can't believe it before their eyes. Simoon realizes that he has to take care of these guys as well and walks towards them. They can't even point their weapons at him without trembling in fear. Even he's shocked they were able to pass the tutorial with their trash skills. It's because of these idiots that many good players suffer defeat in a true arena. So to pay them back, Simoon beats the shit out of these guys until they're all toast. Surprisingly, one guy has been observing him from the shadows and sings praises of Simoon's powers and his ruthless methods. Our boy turns to him and expresses that he shouldn't have any reason to go easy on his opponents in the arena. The man responds in glee, agreeing with his words. Still, Simoon can't place a finger on this guy's intentions. He just wants to remind Simoon that the world doesn't merely operate on a person's strength, and so he extends him a business card for the continental province. This man is revealed to be a scout from China. He was supposed to hand this card to Donking for his talent, and he still intends to do that if he continues to stream live. Simoon internalizes his disbelief. He couldn't imagine the continental province popping here of all places. This guild is one of the top-ranking guilds in all of China, rising to the world's highest rank when Zhongliqiu became the guild's master. It pains him that he has to share involvement with these guys again. While he figured they were going to play their scheme soon, it turns out that they are scouting talent way early. The agent understands that Simoon is suspicious of them, as China and Korea don't exactly have a favorable relationship. Simoon is right to be suspicious of this guy because he made a new identity just to blend in their national matchmaking process. After all, the global matchmaking only happens after the Platinum League. It seems that Donking received messages from the constellations, but he thought it was just a bunch of disrespectful clowns using nicknames. So he insulted them for it, but neither of the constellations could comprehend what he meant. Donking went on the offense, talking shit in the chat, not knowing he was catching beef against literal gods. Even the Black Goat was baffled and had to release an F-bomb in the chat. These gods are Gen Z coded. Anyway, the agent offers to pay a whopping 920 million won as a token of their sincerity to Simoon. They're also happy to take care of any weapons and gear for him. Their contract terms could renew every 3 years, and all the items he will get will be his own to keep. If he proceeds to naturalize in China, blending among their matchmaking process, they'll provide him 10 times the upfront payment. That's roughly 9.2 billion won, an offer that anyone would take. Even the agent thinks that it's a good offer for a low-ranking player. Simoon commends the stunning offer, but it seems that his mission is yet to complete. He's supposed to show a ruthless path. It's a mission filled with ambiguity. It's not exactly asking him to get more kills or achieve first place. Simoon thinks for a bit and wonders if the mission will automatically complete with the arena's completion. Suddenly, something catches his attention as he chucks a fist straight up against the agent's body. The agent can't believe that he's being turned down. Simoon talks shit, claiming that he simply doesn't like the terms before finishing this dude off in a bloodbath. He understands the kind of people that belong to the continental province, and he no longer has any intentions of being fooled. So he leaves to find his next opponent instead. The fighter aiming for the diamond rank had just lost to nobody. The chat went wild and crazy seeing this guy lose, but he was still streaming on the VR. With the arena coming to a close, he tells his viewers to calm down. While he doesn't get what happened, Donking explains that the other dude also must have been from a higher rank bracket. The chat is siding with him on this one, even thinking that his opponent must be using chest or hacks. First, he offers a YouTuber fake apology to his viewers, and even offers a full refund to get on their good side. He logs off and right after ending the stream, smashing his device to the floor. Of course he's pissed, but he couldn't show that to his loyal fanbase. The fact that his opponent used Kai in a match like this upsets him. To even use Kai, one is required to reach level 100. It doesn't make any sense for anyone to be able to use ki unless it's the talented Si-hyuk or Yu-jung. And that alone comprises the upper diamond level, not in the low-level lobby. He's never seen another booster like this, even after rising his way beyond platinum. He faced so much humiliation only to end up in the dirt. Donking is filled with a million questions and recalls that Simoon mentioned receiving a mission. This means that there was a broadcast, so he checks to see the kind of dude he was fighting against. Turns out that Simoon is actually an unranked player, which means he's a newbie who didn't even complete his placement period yet. He decides to spectate Simoon in his matches. Back at the arena, he was decimating players left and right. Donking is astonished to see the kind of martial arts our boy was using, defeating everyone in his way. He had mastered the art of attack and defense, mixing it well with good theory. Donking is out here questioning how the hell someone like him managed to train. There's also the fact that Simoon knows exactly where to hunt his enemies, especially in a map that is structured like a maze and an ant colony. There's only darkness all around, and yet this guy acts like he can see his enemies everywhere. He takes them down with ease and he's unranked on top of it. Interestingly, there are 3 viewers spectating his broadcast, but strangely, no one is cheating. He starts punching away at his keys to write a message, only to receive a message from someone named Dragon. Donking realizes that he's talking to one of his customers who doesn't want a refund and has also sent him his business details in the direct messages. He gets really happy for having avoided a bullet. His happiness lasts until he checks his notification. And that's how he encountered the Constellations, who he assumed were a bunch of phonies trying to troll him. But when the Black Goat dropped the F-bomb, he was really shocked. Anyway, let's get back to Simoon, who has just crushed his final opponent in the arena, ending up with a kill count of 20 in first place. He thinks he should be fine, but his mission still hasn't been completed, so he wonders what he's supposed to do. Simoon's attention is drawn to something, so he activates Moon Owl's body tissue, allowing him to transmutate again. Then he pairs it with a Black Panther's abilities to retrieve a silver ore. This shiny object could be the one thing that he's looking for, as even the Philosopher's Stone points it out. It's the mineral that he wanted, so he pops open the status window, only to get excited at the confirmation. The stone is really happy that they ran into this piece of fortune in an abandoned mine of all places. Simoon understands that his first goal is to finish the arena, so he prioritizes that. He's startled by a sudden message, remembering that he left his broadcast open. Then he reads the messages, seeing a freaking argument going on between Donking and the actual Constellations. The manager of the chat, the Constellation Black Goat, decides to use his Discord moderator powers to kick them all out. The dude literally kicks every single viewer from the chat, and even Zeus vouches in support, while our boy is questioning what the heck is going on. He wasn't expecting the situation to reach this point. He had to give privileges to his Constellations because of the new title. But here there's a whole-ass keyboard gladiator battle going on. Bro is done with them. The funny thing is, Constellations were able to ban 4,000 fans of Donking instantly. First he deals with the Constellations, speaking to them directly and confirming the situation. The Black Goat and Zeus both nod in agreement that Donking brought his army of 13-year-old fans to shit-talk our boy. Simoon's having trouble because he knows that a Constellation's intervention before the arena will lead to trouble. Still, if he argues against them, his title will fade away. His stats are going to end up with a major reduction, setting him back by 4 levels. So in this case, he decides to take a chill pill and reacts calmly. He even grants them their permissions back and tells them to do whatever. He's trying to butter them up, getting those brownie points so they keep on supporting him. Bro was able to rizz up a god, so much so that the Black Goat got flustered at his praise. He was able to get through to them without much trouble. His only request is for them to lay low. After all, the player's powers are evaluated by constellations and how many one is blessed with. Of course, many schemes also take place under their sponsorship, but he can't resist them so early on. Simoon wants to keep the constellations surrounding him a secret at all costs, to ensure his continued survival and avoid enemies. The constellations ended up agreeing with his opinion, which leads to the guy turning on his broadcast again. Simoon is greeted by the chatters again, and tells them about the recent misunderstanding. He acts like his managers were messing with him, and it ended up in a completely different situation. Thanks to his normal reaction, the situation settles as some of the viewers calmed down. Someone even made a donation and became his fan for it, granting him an achievement and points on top of it. Simoon thanks them for their donations and feels more compelled to favor his regular viewers more often than the constellations. These guys could easily become his backbone and support him after all. It was the same way Si-hyuk gathered so much influence. He easily reaches 5,000 viewers, earning him more points. With this, he has basically confirmed his continued point growth as a passive income. Next, he wants to focus on the arena match. Simoon tells them he's going to turn off the chat for now and leaves. That same evening, he returns from the arena, where even more rewards are waiting for him. Having completed a bunch of missions and earning a bunch of points, The dude is practically swimming in growth stats and titles. The rewards are favorable to him, and he received a 5-level increase, so life is good. The Philosopher's Stone also upgraded a good amount. As for his viewers, they wonder where he went because his screen went off. They are still talking about him. Unfortunately, Simoon had yet to set up a proper standby screen for his viewers. He tells them about it and intends to set up a screen soon. His viewers are so chill they just want him to upload selfies if he doesn't have anything. They're even offering to make one for him if he doesn't have selfies to use. It's his first time receiving so much attention, and it's getting to him. Simoon would never have imagined for this day to come. Not in his shitty previous life, at least. Once more, he thanks them for joining along and ends the broadcast, promising to impress them next time. The chatters are disappointed but bid him farewell. Simoon takes a moment to rest. He thinks the numbers could really end up giving him an addiction. The Philosopher's Stone strongly urges that he doesn't fall into that trap. Simoon tells him not to worry and checks his stats. With the placement period finished, he's now going to receive an assigned rank. He's really hoping that it's not something comparable to the Platinum League. It was only 3 matches, and compared to the average level in the Platinum League, he thinks it would be wrong to be placed there. The system is still analyzing his points, taking a while. Finally, the adjustment completes, but strangely presents him with 2 options. The first option is clearly more favorable to him, so he reaches to confirm it. However, Simoon takes a second to reconsider his options. He wonders why option 2 was even created when option 2 just seemed so much more favorable. If anything, it seems like a penalty, which means the arena has its own goals. The Philosopher's Stone alarms him that he's got a short time window to accept. So our boy decides to pop the Mithril Ore, a grade S item with one of the highest purities all around. Simoon requests the stone to appraise it quickly because he wants to check something. The stone is peeved and informs him that it will take a bit of his synthesis power to inspect something so high quality. The appraisal ends up revealing more information about the stone, allowing him to learn that it was limited to 1 person. He didn't know that it was an entry item at first, and he really didn't expect to have earned a special item in an arena like this. It's an excellent reward. Entry items are rewards that exist outside of the promised rewards of a specific arena. Each reward varies, and that was the purpose of option 2. Simoon recalls that the world only registers triple S class as having the highest grade, but from his past life, he knows that an X grade will appear in a couple of years, even higher than the previous classes combined. The X grade is unique on its own, which means that only one of a kind exists. This grade being attached to an entry item confirms that the difficulty of the arena will also be strugglesome to deal with. The only issue is, the condition in option 2 makes it impossible. After all, the system added silver rank placement for a reason in option 2. Simoon knows that the silver crystal will be unusable right after he surpasses the silver rank. That means the best option is to focus on maximizing his stats for now, before he promotes to a higher rank. At the same time, he has to consider what the fans are thinking. Simoon confirms the selection process, having made his choice at last. He selected option 2, automatically placing him silver and cutting his rewards by 30% until he reaches gold. The penalty thankfully only applies to the silver rank. He gets 500 points on top of that. He checks the TV program, where the commentators are thrilled to mention the amazing graduate who has stolen the scene. This channel spot is known as Guka, and it's the #1 channel ever since the Galaxy Arena became a thing. They talk about Sehyok's brilliant broadcast, having defeated a boss monster on his own, receiving a staggering view count of beyond 500 million. Spectators are shocked, but it's understandable since he's a globally ranked broadcaster. His senior is also watching the broadcast, telling the great Sehyok how his achievements are being put on display for the world to see. But this guy is humble and doesn't think much of them. He just wants to chill and take a break in his senior's office, as a humble customer, of course. His teasing gets his seniors all riled up. The man pours his junior a coffee to cheer up for the time being. He ruined Sehyok's plans to chill and sleep by handing him a coffee to wake him up. The dude continues to tease him and laugh. Finally, they get to the meat of the matter at hand. The senior tosses him an envelope, containing the documents he requested. Sehyok is shocked that he was able to get it all done so quickly. Bro is the opposite of Sehyok with his prideful attitude, reminding him that he's one of the best in his field. Sehyok emphasizes that he never treated the great Jinwook as a joke. This also gets on the guy's nerves. He considers his junior a spoiled brat. Jinwook really doesn't like arena points and prefers cash and payment. He declines Sehyok's insistent offer, until he goes silent, and shockingly reveals that he's ready to get rid of anyone who speaks up about the truth. I'm starting to think this guy is the main villain. This side of him catches Jinwook off guard, and he questions if Sehyok intends to eliminate the entire association with his grandiose ambitions. That is until Jinwook grasps the true meaning behind his words. Sehyok emphasizes that he's reclaiming what was supposed to be his. Jinwook is rendered speechless. The kid in front of him really plans to knock down the association as a whole. Additionally, He's curious if his senior was able to find out more than what is mentioned within the documents. Jinwook is cautious, knowing that Seok's natural smile is a direct indication of him being at his most dangerous. He inspects the documents and learns that the Seongsa Guild's cleanup makes it hard for them to investigate deeply. Seok is starting to think Jinwook is seriously trash because his basic report couldn't even get him more than Seongsa Guild's involvement. Jinwook roars at him, before mentioning Yoojung's name, believing that she might have some of the puzzle pieces. But Seok disregards her as a whole. Jinwook is surprised because he knows her for being nosy enough to investigate. Seok tells him that she's got no clue about the guild's involvement in the incident. This means they've been on bad terms with each other. But Seok thinks their interactions have always been like that. He senses something dark emanating behind the door. Seok asks if he's got an important meeting to catch up on. And after learning that he doesn't, it confirms his suspicions that this guy is being spied on by someone. The door opens, and the dude entering is a cloaked figure. Jinwook tells him to go away as their store is closed, but Seok is nowhere to be found. He hid his presence in mere moments, impressing the likes of an assassin like him. Seok is calmly hiding to see what this guy is up to. He wonders about this dude's identity and if he is related to the guild, or if he's an assassin sent to dispose of him. The cloaked figure expresses that he's come here for a simple job, and even after Jinwook turns him down, he raises his hand to demonstrate his point. Even Jinwook feels threatened by him and is ready to jump on this dude. So from one side, Jinwook is attacking, while Seok is taking him on from the flank. Both assailants are about to kill his ass until he drops his hoodie, revealing that he's Simoon. Seok stops his attack, while our boy is just confused to find him here of all places. They share coffee together, discussing his request. Jinwook treats him nicely and expresses that they're top-notch in that aspect. This guy is actually no joke, he's the perfect assassin with his double S-class trait. It's useful for all sorts of missions. But he's wondering why Seok is here of all places. Tension rises, as for some reason, Seok doesn't have the strength to meet his eyes, to face his brother, and to confront him for the incident that occurred 10 years in the past. Simoon, being bold as always, confronts him and asks if he knows Jinwook by any chance. Turns out that he's one of the juniors from the academy as well as Jinwook's main clients. That's something our boy clearly wasn't ready to hear. He finds it strange because Jinwook wasn't really associated with Seok in his previous life. He thinks they're close to each other, but that comment alone receives a strong reaction from both of them. They got a tough love relationship going and hate each other. Jinwook is upset that he gets to serve this asshole for his high rank, while Seok is ready to beat his ass for that comment. The dude goes on to take Jinwook's side, hurting Seok even more by calling him a nuisance. All of a sudden, he's become our boy's #1 fan for being a good customer. He asks for details regarding his request. Turns out Simoon is looking for someone in another country. It's a good thing because they've got a high success rate for these types of missions. When asking for details, Simoon reveals that he's looking for Mal-suk, a woman in her 20s living in Busan. She shares Seok's age, while Jinwook wonders if he knows the woman. To that, obviously Simoon says no, because he only knows her from the previous life. Jinwook believes that his job entails finding her address, which is confirmed to be true. Thankfully, he should be able to easily get this job done with this much detail. Seok pokes fun at him, reminding him of the shitty report he gave him for his request. The teasing continues. Anyway, Jinwook promises to get the job done in a few days. As for the fee, Jinwook factors in a bunch of different aspects of the request. He's taken a liking to the boy to the point he's ready to do this one for free. Simoon doesn't want to be a freeloader, so he rejects that offer. After all, Jinwook is a respectable diamond-level player. But this aspect of him makes Jinwook want to do it for free even more. He teases Seok for being a shitty customer in comparison. He's happy to charge Seok instead. Simoon doesn't want that either, but his brother is okay with it. But that's not the issue here. As Simoon points out, this is about maintaining a good relationship. This confirms to Jinwook that he's going to be serving this good long term, which is why refused the free offer. Jinwook is certainly impressed and barely sees any similarity between the two brothers. So then, Simoon urges them to cover the fee with a different condition in mind. Knowing that Jinwook loves to dabble in high-ranking materials, Simoon expresses that he may be able to help him in that realm. It's a surprising offer that takes him off guard. For the Night Hunter, he retired from the arena to run a detective agency business. As for the reason someone as good as him retired, based on the information from his past life, it's because of mana sclerosis. It's a unique condition where mana hardens and makes it harder for a person to navigate. This condition has no cure at this time. The real cure only really involves using a bunch of basic ingredients. Our boy knows the recipe by heart because he was trying to fix his own magic incapability in the past life. And then there's one more reason he wants to help this guy out. The day his brother died was also the day that Jinwook stayed by his brother's side until the very end. Talk about being a true homie. What a legend. This also means the better their relationship, the better the chances that they'll be able to tackle Korea's problems. Anyway, Simoon shocks both him and his brother by revealing his knowledge of mana sclerosis. Not even Sohyok knew about this fact and jumped at his senior for it. Jinwook is impressed that the boys got information to such an extent. He asks Simoon how he'll be able to counteract the sickness. Simoon astonishes both of them by revealing that he can make the cure with the ingredients for him. Jinwook struggles to believe the kid's claims as he couldn't even find something like that at the diamond level. Simoon expresses that he can demonstrate what he means as long as he does not reject the offer. Jinwook meets him with another question. He doesn't know why the boy is making him such an offer, especially since he agreed on doing the request for free. To that, Simoon excuses that he just likes the guy for his personality. The Night Hunter is having serious troubles comprehending this guy. He agrees, knowing he doesn't have a choice. The ingredients will be handed over to the kid, who doesn't intend to run away. He plans to contact Jinwook as soon as the cure is ready. The discussion ends as both brothers walk out of the store. Sohyok has a lot of questions and asks what's going on. Simoon knocks his head for still feeling guilty about an accident. The suspects involved were criminals, and they just shared bad luck for getting tangled up with them. Regardless, Simoon no longer wants to get stuck in the past after his regression. He's got a life ahead of him, and he doesn't face any guilt anymore. He advises Sohyok the same, who didn't imagine such words would come out of his mouth. Simoon brilliantly understands that a person can't be tangled by things of the past if they must change the future to come. And knowing what Sohyok will become, as the hope of the planet, he really can't risk that. He tells Sohyok that he should be proud of what he's done for the country, as the rankers determine a nation's power. Also, Simoon is most troubled having lost his affiliation, which normally seems like a useless stat, but is very important. The end result leads to a stagnation of growth. Sohyok and the other players have no idea how important the statue is at the moment. He tells Sohyok that he knows something about the state. Sohyok strongly believes his brother, especially after his interaction with the Night Hunter. At the same time, he's curious why he's out here asking the Night Hunter for an investigation when his own intel is so sharp. Simoon is annoyed enough that his brother is unbearably sharp. He decides to reveal the secret by revealing something that he wasn't going to, showing him the rare mithril ore. It stupefies Sohyok to find that his brother ended up with an entry item. What's more, it's now confirmed to him that Simoon recovered from his magic inability. His brother is stunned because the only reason he got that condition in the first place was because of him and Yujung. It led to a tragic fate for Simoon, and now, the man himself is telling him that he's all cured. He wants to know what happened, but Simoon doesn't want to tell him and emphasizes to forget the past. As the older brother, he manages to control the situation. The details don't really matter to Sohyok. He's just happy if anything. Simoon goes on to state that he learned the importance of affiliation stat after encountering the rare mithril ore. He points to the interesting rarity, as the item is classified as an X-grade item. Simoon briefly mentions that only bad things happen upon losing one's affiliation. Sohyok takes him for his word. Simoon decides to leave for the day, before his younger brother stops him and brings up the topic of special arenas. He alludes to the fact that he could help boost his brother, but Simoon is offended that he even brought it up. He doesn't want his own growth to stagnate. Sohyok is happy to lend some important items too, as he's a magic user and requires equipment. Simoon rejects the offer, stating that he's an alchemist and doesn't need much. He's about to leave when something crosses his mind. He stops to ask Sohyok what becomes of the material items after acquiring them. Turns out they're just to be sold or wasted if they're useless. That's what Simoon assumed at least. All of a sudden, he's interested in seeking a favor from his brother. After the meeting, Sohyok returns to Jinwook, acting like he owns the place. His attitude is the exact opposite of his brother, annoying the Night Hunter even more. Jinwook questions if Sohyok intends on boosting his brother, and becomes shocked to learn that he got turned down for it because it stops his growth. Jinwook likes the guy even more now. Sohyok agrees and holds his brother in high regard. Jinwook believes that this guy is nothing to scoff at with the way he was testing him earlier. As for the equipment, he turned it down too, only deciding to keep some material items. Jinwook thinks it's an excellent decision for an alchemist, and wonders if he's got his own reasons. This makes him cautious of the guy, as he even mentioned the impossible cure that has yet to exist in this world. Jinwook is way invested in him now. As for the woman he named, even Sohyok wants the Night Hunter to investigate her properly. He promises to fulfill the request well. Suddenly, the realization hits him. It turns out that Sohyok wants a copy of the information that his brother has requested. He wants to learn everything about this woman. Jinwook accuses him of being the jealous type, and questions why he's asking for an investigation. Sohyok is smart enough to understand that his brother is probably investigating the woman for a reason. It scares the detective for a moment because he thinks he got conned. But it's not really that. Sohyok suspects there is more to the situation. While he could investigate the situation on his own, he doesn't want to, because of what happened 10 years ago. Back then, his brother took up a sacrifice to save Sohyok. It feels like the same is happening right now, which gives Jinwook a bad feeling about the situation. In the next scene, our boy is walking while singing a tune. Clearly he's happy to have Lady Luck favoring him so well. Not only did he acquire the rewards, but he also got his hands on the amazing ingredients from Jinwook. It's basically an alchemist's wet dream. It's all thanks to his meticulous handling of the situation. As for his brother, the Philosopher's Stone is worried for Siyuk, who looks naive and probably will get scammed someday. But even Simun knows that it's an inaccurate description of Siyuk, who is really cunning. Back home, the alchemist is busy with work. He understands that the cure for mana sclerosis is an amazing business opportunity for him to exploit. Many players, even high-ranking ones like Jinwook, suffer from it, so a cure's demand is at an all-time high. He doesn't want to exploit people, but it's merely the truth that he'll need money to handle things in the future. His ultimate goal is to stop the bastards responsible for backstabbing and killing his brother. The same idiots who caused their planet's demise, Zhonglikyu and his guild. The same goes for the mysterious eyeball he fought. He needs his brother to live at all costs, no matter what happens. In order to prevent the repeat instance of the same future, he needs to cultivate his skills and become stronger. Holding onto the stone, he initiates the synthesis process, which excites the little thing. While his power is insufficient, his points are enough to make up for the trade. He planned to keep 1,000 points for himself, but the obsidian tablet is taking its effect, causing a massive 20% increase. He wonders how strong it will become at twice the rate of completion. The synthesis is initiated as Simun is energized with purple sparks emanating from the tablet. Its completion rate has jumped up to 40, allowing him to earn praise from some of the constellations. Next up, he quickly enters the galaxy arena to test things out. The arena he's entering is affected by his entry item, consuming the mithril ore. The special arena also provided him with a surprising waiting time. But strangely, there's no one here. The Philosopher's Stone explains that it's just a space of black created for the players to wait. Simun is fine with entering now that his tablet has already reached a 40% completion rate. And his achievement points doubled too. He's more than ready for the silver lobby. So now to begin his broadcast, he thinks of a name to use. Realizing what happened last time, he decides to go unnoticed and hits the live button. The chatters instantly start commenting, and it's only a good thing that he didn't come flying at them with a title related to a constellation. The broadcast just started, and he's already at 1,500 viewers. He remembers not having changed the standby screen. Simun confidently greets his viewers and excites them with a special arena raid. Some of them call him crazy for it because he's a silver-ranked player. Regardless, he merely informs them that he won't be able to chat during the arena mission. With that, he initiates the arena. The mithril ore is consumed at once, as special arenas can never be accessed without an entry item. The location is set, and the objective is clear. He has to survive in the Nightmare of the Mind stage. The arena starts as he materializes on the stage. In his thoughts, he deems it a vague survival event. The special arena never outlines a clear objective and merely gives abstract hints. One has to figure out the conditions, and if they do that, their rewards jump up a lot. Simun doesn't detect anything strange nearby. Based on the name, he suspects that something terrible happened inside the mine. As he's thinking of that, a monstrous pair of eyes glows in the dark. The monster makes its appearance known. It's a draken, and this guy looks scary as hell. Drakens are supposed to be the lowest-ranking dragon species. They are known for appearing in high gold lobbies, and it's more than deserving of the title of a nightmare for silver-ranked players. The chat goes crazy, knowing that this isn't looking great. As for the Black Goat constellation, it seems to express irritation. Anyway, the Draken monster is the first one to engage in combat. It aims to devour this human, but Simun is relaxed and ready to rumble. The creature swings its axe at him, while Simun merely points his finger and escapes the confrontation with ease. He keeps his distance and maintains the Black Panther body transmutation. Then he lunges forth, following through with an ogre's body composition for a powerful strike. The creature tries to whip him with its tail, a terrible counterattack as Simun smashes its tail into the ground, causing it a world of pain. Now provoked, the monster declares that it will slaughter the human for its meddling. It tries to swing its axe, but our boy's incredible agility gives him a clear advantage at leaping away. Now that it's his turn to strike, he returns the blow with a thunderous kick, defeating the creature in one attack. Even Simun didn't expect that, and it's a testament to how good his transmutation abilities are. Also, the obsidian tablet's 40% completion rate allowed him to gain a new transmutation ability, allowing him to stack multiple transmutation on top of each other. This allows for a crazy power boost. All three constellations are impressed by him and decide to bless him with 1,000 points. This is a great run for him so far. Anyway, Simun wasn't expecting to get a reward for beating a draken, but he quickly learns that it's because the constellations collectively despise dragons. It also means that the Dragon Lord must share some kind of conflict among the constellations. In his past life, the Dragon Lord made themselves known to the world in a massive outbreak. Even the strongest dragons paid the Dragon Lord respect and submitted before him. Collectively, they were able to wipe out half of Europe in a single day with his destruction. The entirety of this world has yet to forget that. It's a good thing that the constellations already despise dragons because it basically confirms he'll get a surge of rewards by beating them in arena raids. As he's advancing ahead, Simoon is startled by a scream. Nearby, a bunch of Drakens are torturing someone. They're about to finish this person off before they receive an attack of their own. One of the monsters is taken down, allowing the others to become alert. They're shocked to see a human here of all places. The monsters attempt to jump on him, but it's no use. With a flick of his finger, Simoon annihilates another one of them. The final Draken, enraged, bulldozes ahead and attempts to slash our boy. But his attack is easily blocked with Simoon's transmutation powers. He then follows through by manipulating the Draken's body with his magic. He forces the creature to use its own axe, beheading it at once. Simoon's stats take a rise, and he's starting to think that this arena must also have a slight nerf on the monsters. It reminds him of his encounter against the Hobgoblin. The fact that these nerfed Drakens are barely capable of holding their own against his abilities is proof of that. Anyway, his loyal fans are shocked that he was able to beat 3 of these bad guys in one swing. The chat goes crazy at his performance, the mere fact that he didn't use anything besides his own body. Simoon senses that he's going to need a manager to really look after his chat. He can't risk calling back the constellations either, so he's forced to address the situation directly. Simoon makes it known that he's actually a mage, and not really a fighter class. They think he must be using some kind of spirit magic, but he denies that too. The chat is going crazy with questions before his eyes. He tries to take control of the situation, one again confirming his class as a mage. Suddenly, his attention turns to the guy all cut up and wounded next to him. Simoon immediately recognizes who this guy is.